Why are you here? William Hartwell's voice rang out from the doorway. He stood on the threshold, the rain darkening the shoulders of his black coat. One hand still rested on the doorknob. "What are you doing in my office?" he asked. "Who let you in here?" Annie startled and stepped back so quickly that her heel struck the small trash can beside his desk. The trash can tipped over onto the carpet with a dry clatter, sending crumpled papers scattering everywhere. I'm sorry," she stammered, raising one hand while the other still clutched her phone. "I didn't mean to touch anything. I only came to clean. My mother couldn't come tonight." William's eyes moved from the overturned trash can to the employee badge pinned to her shirt. The badge read, "Marla Brooks." "You are not Marla Brooks." "No, sir, she's my mother." "Where is your mother?" "At home, sick." Annie drew in a short breath. "She has a high fever. She was afraid of losing her shift, so I came in for her. This is my private office." Annie swallowed hard. She glanced toward the computer screen, then at the door behind William, as if wondering whether running would make her look guilty or simply make everything worse. Then she looked at the door once more and lowered her voice. "I only meant to clean and leave," she said. "Empty the trash, wipe the desk, turn off the lights. That was all. But then your computer screen turned on by itself, and I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Something very serious. I knew I should leave, but I couldn't, so I stayed." William's face turned cold and severe. "You stayed in my office after viewing private information on my computer?" "I know how bad that sounds." "Do you?" "Yes, sir." Annie's voice trembled, but she did not look away. "I know exactly how this sounds. Based on what you claim to have seen? You said you saw something on my computer. It wasn't just an email." Annie looked toward the still glowing screen behind him. Under that email was a list of overseas bank accounts. Your electronic signature was there, and there was an order to transfer tens of millions of dollars out of your company's charity fund. William fell silent. "Which charity fund?" Annie hesitated, as if saying the name aloud would make it real. "The Children's Hope Foundation." William did not answer at once. The Children's Hope Foundation paid hospital bills, medication costs, surgery expenses, and travel fees for families who had run out of every other option. It was not his largest account, but it was the one the public knew best. If someone accused him of stealing from that fund, the first damage would not be financial. It would be moral. It would be his honor. It would be the public's trust. And the consequences would be severe. "How much?" he asked. "I don't know the exact number. You just said tens of millions. I saw the transfer line. It looked like 48 million, maybe more after fees." I panicked. I took a picture before the screen changed. William narrowed his eyes. "You took a picture of my computer?" "Yes. That is a very serious matter. So is someone using your name to steal money from very sick children." The words slipped out of Annie's mouth before she could stop them. She immediately lowered her head, as if preparing for his anger. But William did not raise his voice. "You expect me to believe," he said slowly, "that you came here to clean, accidentally saw a transfer order, decided it was a crime, took a picture of it, and then stood here waiting for me to return?" "No, sir. No? I don't expect you to believe me just because I say so." Annie raised her phone slightly. "That's why I recorded what happened afterward." William's gaze sharpened. "Recorded what?" "Your assistant." A faint crease appeared between his eyebrows. "Evaine? I don't know her last name. The woman who came in after me. Gray blonde hair. Cream blouse. She acted like she had every right to be in this room." "Evelyn Cross," William said. "She is not just my assistant. She has worked with me for 12 years. I understand." "No, I don't think you do." His voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. "Evelyn runs this office. She handles my board schedule, donor accounts, and legal files. She has access because I gave it to her. She has been with me through audits, lawsuits, recessions, medical emergencies, and more confidential meetings than you can imagine." Annie nodded, but her expression did not change. "Then maybe that's why she knew exactly where to look." William's eyes went cold. "Careful. I don't mean any disrespect. You are accusing a woman who has stood beside me for more than a decade of framing me for embezzlement. I'm telling you that after she sent me out, she came in here, sat at your computer, and copied data from it. That is impossible. I saw it with my own eyes." "You saw what you think you saw." Annie swallowed again, but this time, fear was not enough to silence her. "She had a small USB drive," Annie said. "Black. She plugged it into the side of your keyboard dock. Then she opened folders. One of them had something to do with signature authentication. After that, the file started moving. I didn't understand every word on the screen, but I know what data being copied looks like. William glanced past her toward the computer. Annie continued. She was also on the phone. She said everything was ready. She said by Monday morning, the board would think you had stolen money from dying children. William's jaw tightened. Those were her words? Yes, sir. Exactly? I would never forget a sentence like that. Before William could answer, footsteps sounded outside the office. Annie's eyes went straight to the door. William heard them too. High heels moved quickly down the hallway. The door opened before he could move. Evelyn Cross stepped in, breathing quickly, a tablet pressed against her chest. Her cream blouse was still neat, but a strand of gray blonde hair had slipped loose near her temple. She stopped when she saw Annie, and her expression immediately shifted into familiar concern. William, she said. Thank God you're back. I saw the office light on from the hallway and thought something might be wrong. William did not take his eyes off her. Evelyn's gaze moved to the overturned trash can, then to the badge on Annie's shirt, and finally to the phone in Annie's hand. Evelyn gave a small sigh, as if trying to remain calm. This is the girl I was going to report tonight, security. She has been wandering around in an unauthorized area. I was about to have someone check the access logs. Annie's lips parted, but William spoke first. You already reported her to security? I was about to, Evelyn said gently. But I wanted to confirm whether anything had been touched before escalating the situation. You know how messy these things can become. William let the silence stretch for a moment. Monsieur. Evelyn stepped farther into the room. Not too far. Just enough to remind everyone that she belonged there. The board vote is tomorrow morning. We do not need an incident involving cleaning staff tonight. I can handle this quietly. Annie lowered her head, but her hand tightened around her phone. William noticed. Evelyn turned to Annie with a strained smile. You may leave now. We'll contact your mother's company. Annie looked up. Fear showed clearly on her face, then quickly gave way to stubbornness. She took half a step toward William and spoke so softly that Evelyn could not hear. Sir, she whispered, I'll show you after she leaves. William's expression did not change, but he heard every word. Annie whispered again, Please, let her leave the room first, then I'll show you. Evelyn's smile faded. What did she say? William turned to Annie. His voice was low enough to sound private, but hard enough to hurt. If you are lying to me, Miss Brooks, your mother will lose her job before sunrise. Do you understand that? Annie stood still. The words struck their mark. Her mother's name, her mother's job, the one thing Annie had come here to protect. Annie's face tightened, but she did not back down. I understand, she said, but I'm not lying. Evelyn's eyes narrowed slightly. William, may I ask what this is about? You may, William said, but not tonight. The answer unsettled Evelyn. Only for a second. Then she immediately regained her composure. I don't think this should be left unresolved. I did not ask for your opinion. Evelyn studied him more closely. Concern still rested on her face. But beneath it, something had begun calculating distance, exits, and timing. William walked to his desk and picked up a folder, though he did not look at it. Evelyn, go home. Be here at 7. We'll discuss the board matter in the morning. I can stay. No. Silence fell. Then Evelyn nodded. Of course. She turned toward the door, then stopped as if remembering some small detail. Should I have security escort Miss Brooks out? William looked at Annie. Annie held her breath. No, he said. I will handle Miss Brooks myself. Evelyn looked at him for 1 second too long. Then she smiled. Good night, William. She left the office, carefully closing the door behind her. No one said anything until Evelyn's footsteps faded down the hallway. William was the first to move. He walked to the door, turned the lock, then looked back at Annie. Show me. Annie unlocked her phone with trembling hands and opened the video. The footage began from an awkward, distorted angle, partly captured through the reflection in the glass beside the copy room. William's desk appeared first, then the desk lamp, and then the glowing computer screen. A few seconds later, Evelyn Cross stepped into the frame. William's hand tightened around the phone. Evelyn sat down in his chair. She plugged a small black USB drive into the side of the keyboard dock and began typing. The screen shifted. A folder opened. Then, another. William saw the words executive signature authentication and a directory tree linked to internal authorization records. Evelyn pressed her phone to her ear. Her voice was low, but clear. It's done. By Monday morning, the board will think he stole money from dying children. William watched the video once, then he watched it again. The second time, he saw the transfer window in the corner of the screen. The third time, he saw the timestamp. Late Sunday night. Just before the board vote, on Monday morning, he slowly lowered the phone. Annie stood near the overturned trash can, silent. "I didn't know what else to do," she said. "She told me to leave. I did, but she didn't call security. That scared me. If I was really the problem, she would have called someone right away. Instead, she waited until I was gone, then went straight to your computer." William looked toward the office door. Then he looked at the security panel beside it. For 12 years, Evelyn Cross had been the person standing between him and chaos. But the video in his hand did not care how long she had been trusted. "Does anyone else know you recorded this?" he asked. "No, sir." "Your mother?" "No." "Evain?" "I don't think so." William carefully placed the phone on the desk. "Listen to me, Annie Brooks. From now on, you do not speak to security. You do not call anyone in this building. And you do not leave through the main elevator." Her face tightened. "Are they going to blame me?" William looked at the badge on her shirt, the badge bearing her mother's name. He understood the real question behind her words. Would they blame her because she had been there? Because she was poor? Because she was a black girl? Because people like her were rarely treated fairly in rooms like this? "If they find out what you saw," he said, "they may very well try. My mother could lose her job. That may be the smallest part of it." Annie's fingers touched the employee badge. In that moment, she did not look like someone who had discovered a crime. She looked like a daughter trying to help her sick mother keep a job that barely kept them alive. If Annie's courage touched your heart, please like this video. Tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because your voice matters here. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories about truth, justice, and the people brave enough to stand up when it matters most. "What am I supposed to do?" she asked. William picked up the phone again and looked at the frozen image of Evelyn Cross sitting in his chair. "You tell me everything," he said, "from the beginning." Annie nodded. But at first no sound came out. She looked at the overturned trash can, then bent down as if cleaning it up might give her shaking hands something to do. William stopped her quietly. "Leave it." She froze. "I need the room exactly as it is." That frightened her more than if he had shouted. "Am I evidence now?" William looked at her. "You are a witness. Where I live, that doesn't always end well." "No," he said, "it doesn't." That honesty steadied her a little. She slowly straightened, still keeping her distance from his desk. "My mother called me around 9, Annie began. She said she couldn't stand up without getting dizzy. I told her to call the agency, but she said they had already warned her. Too many missed shifts. Too many doctor visits. She said, 'Annie, just go in, clean the floor, and come home.'" William's eyes dropped to Marla's badge. "My mother has kidney disease," Annie said. "Some days are better than others. Tonight wasn't one of them. Why didn't she ask for medical leave?" Annie let out a short breath with no humor in it. "Sir, my mother cleans offices at night. People like my mother don't ask for anything. They just hope no one notices when they're hurting." "What time did you arrive?" "A little before 11:30. The guard downstairs barely looked at me. I had my mother's badge in her cleaning cart. I started with the outer offices first. Yours was last. Was my computer on when you entered?" "No." "The room was dark, except for the small lamp by the bookshelf. I emptied the trash first. Then I wiped the desk near the window. I was about to leave when the screen turned on. Did anyone call the office phone?" "No." "Did you touch the mouse?" "No, sir." "The keyboard?" "No." He watched her answer. There was no hesitation. "What did you see first?" "The subject line. Final approval." "I didn't understand everything. But then I saw your name at the bottom. It looked official. Too official. Like someone wanted it to look official." William turned toward the screen. "What about the financial records?" "They were underneath the email, in a file window. I saw numbers, bank names I didn't recognize, and a note saying the transaction had to be completed before the vote on Monday." At that, William's face hardened again. Annie noticed. "That means something, doesn't it?" It means whoever did this knew the board schedule. Did Evelyn know that? Yes. Did anyone else? A few people. He answered too quickly. And Annie was sharp enough not to ask the next question right away. William walked around behind his desk but did not sit down. Sitting in that chair felt wrong now. Evelyn had been there only minutes ago. He opened a side drawer, took out a small black notebook, and wrote 3 lines by hand. Arrived at 11:30, screen activated by itself, transfer before board vote. Annie watched him. Why are you writing it down on paper? Computers can be altered. Paper is harder to change quietly. My mother says the same thing about rent receipts. The comparison caught him off guard. For the first time that night, William almost smiled, but the smile disappeared before it could form. What happened after you took the picture? I heard footsteps. I thought it was security, so I moved away from the desk. Evelyn came in. She looked at me like I had stolen something. What did she say? She asked who I was. I told her about my mother. She said I had no right to be here and told me to leave before she called security. But she didn't call. No. That's what made me stay. If she really thought I was a threat, why not call right then? William wrote that down too. Annie rubbed her palms against the sides of her pants. When she went to your computer, she didn't even look around first. She didn't seem afraid. She knew where everything was. Of all the things Annie had said, that unsettled him most. An amateur making a mistake would have rushed. Evelyn had not rushed. William lifted the office phone, then stopped before dialing. Annie noticed the movement. You said not to call anyone. I'm not calling security. Then who? He did not answer right away. He opened the bottom drawer of his desk and took out an old cell phone sealed in a plastic evidence bag. Annie stared at it. You keep another phone in your desk? I keep a few things in this office that other people don't know about. That's reassuring, she blurted before she could stop herself. William looked at her. Annie's face tensed. Sorry. No, he said. It isn't reassuring. He turned the phone on. While it powered up, he glanced back at the door Evelyn had just walked through. What about my mother? Annie asked. William paused. Is she home alone? Yes. She thinks I'm cleaning. Can she drive? No. We don't have a car. Does anyone else know she's sick? No one. My mother doesn't like people knowing when she can't work. William understood that kind of pride. His father had once died with a suit jacket over a hospital gown because he did not want the nurses to see him looking frail. Pride looked different in wealthy homes and small apartments, but at its core, it was the same thing. We're bringing her here, he said. Annie stiffened. No, please don't drag my mother into this. She's already in this. Her badge opened that door. She didn't do anything. I believe that. But will they? William did not lie. Not if Evelyn gets to speak first. The old phone came back to life. He dialed a number from memory. On the second ring, a man answered, his voice rough with sleep. Read. Thomas. It's William Hartwell. I need you at the tower. Use the private entrance. No calls, no texts, and no company devices. There was a pause. Then the man's voice sharpened. How bad is it? William looked at Annie's phone on the desk, at the image of Evelyn sitting in his chair. 48 million, he said. And it may be worse. He ended the call before Thomas could ask more. Annie stood motionless. Who is Thomas? The person I call when I can't call anyone else. Outside, the rain kept tapping against the glass. Inside, the office seemed to grow tighter by the second. William turned to Annie. Now tell me everything you remember about that email. Every word, every number, every name. Annie drew in a breath, wiped her palms again, and began. Annie spoke slowly at first, then faster as the pieces came back to her. William did not interrupt unless he needed a number repeated. He wrote by hand, small block letters on a legal pad he had pulled from the drawer. 48 million. Children's Hope Fund. Foreign accounts. Final authorization. Monday vote. Every few seconds. His eyes moved from the paper to the computer screen, then to the locked office door. There was one more thing, Annie said. William's pen stopped. What? A name near the bottom of the screen, not in the email, in a little box next to the transfer line. What name? I don't know if it was a name or part of a file. Mercer, maybe. It said D. Mercer approval pending. Or Mercer approval queue. I'm not sure. William looked up. Annie saw the change in him. It was not shock exactly. It was the look of a man hearing a floorboard creak in a house he had believed empty. "Who is Mercer?" she asked. "David Mercer, Chief Financial Officer. The money man?" "Yes. Would he have access to something like this?" William did not answer right away. That was answer enough. Annie looked toward the computer again. "So it's not just your assistant. Don't get ahead of the evidence." "I'm not. I'm just listening to what you're not saying." For a moment, William almost forgot who she was supposed to be in this room. Not an employee, not an investigator, not anyone with the right to speak to him that directly. But Annie had earned a narrow kind of right by standing where others would have run. He capped the pen. "David Mercer can authorize movement between foundation accounts, but he cannot move money alone. Not from the Children's Hope Fund. That requires my digital signature and a second-layer confirmation. From Evelyn? No, from finance. From him." William's jaw tightened. "Possibly." Annie let that sit. "Monday morning, the board removes you. By noon, the transfer is irreversible." That's what Evelyn said in the video. She said the first part, not the second. Annie nodded. "Right. Sorry. No. Don't apologize for being precise. Precision is what keeps people alive in rooms like this." The words slipped out before William thought about them. Annie heard them and looked at him differently, as if she had just been told the office was more dangerous than she already believed. A soft vibration came from the old cell phone on William's desk. He picked it up and read the message. "Service elevator. 2 minutes. Thomas is here," William said. Annie stepped back. "Should I hide?" "No. What if he thinks I did something?" "He won't." "You sound sure." "I'm paying him to be suspicious of everyone, including me." That did not comfort her. She folded her arms around herself and stood near the side of the desk, careful not to touch anything. William noticed the way she kept one foot angled toward the door. A habit. People who expected to be thrown out always knew where exits were. A quiet knock came from the service entrance behind the paneled wall near the bookcase. William crossed the room and pressed his thumb to a hidden latch. A narrow door opened inward. Thomas Reed stepped in carrying no briefcase, no umbrella, and no expression that wasted time. He was in his late 50s, with close-cropped gray hair, a dark raincoat, and the worn patience of a man who had spent years listening to people lie badly and well. His eyes went first to William, then to Annie, then to the overturned trash can, then to the computer. "You said 48 million, Thomas said. "I said maybe worse." Thomas looked at Annie. "You the one who found it?" Annie hesitated. "Yes, sir." "What's your name?" "Annie Brooks." "Annie, I'm Thomas Reed. I ask plain questions." "Doesn't mean I don't believe you. It means I don't believe anything until it can stand on its own feet." "Fair?" Annie nodded. "Fair. Good. Don't guess. If you know, say you know. If you think, say you think. If you don't know, that's the cleanest answer in the room." For the first time since William had entered, Annie seemed to breathe a little easier. William handed Thomas the phone. "Start with the video." Thomas watched it once without moving. Then he watched it again, holding the phone closer to his face. On the third viewing, he paused at the moment. Evelyn leaned toward the monitor. "Signature archive," he said. "You can read it?" Annie asked. "Enough." Thomas zoomed in. "This isn't a casual copy." She knew the folder path. No searching, no hesitation. William's face remained still. Could the video be enough? For Evelyn? Maybe. For whoever sits behind her? No. Thomas handed the phone back to Annie. "May I see the photos?" She glanced at William. "It's all right," William said. Annie opened the pictures and handed over the phone again. Thomas moved through them one by one. His thumb stopped on the transfer page. His eyes narrowed. "There," he said. William stepped closer. Thomas pointed. "Secondary approval queue. D. Mercer." William was silent. Annie looked between them. "So, I remembered right." Thomas nodded once. "You did?" William asked. "Could Evelyn have placed his name there to misdirect us?" "She could have. But this looks like a live queue, not a typed note. See the formatting? Different layer. System generated. Meaning somebody with finance-level access had this staged before Evelyn sat down tonight." William turned toward the windows. The city lights looked farther away now. Thomas continued. "When is the board vote?" 8:30. "Who benefits if you're suspended?" David Mercer would become interim financial authority pending review. "And Evelyn?" She stays on as executive administrator unless removed. Thomas gave a short, humorless breath. Convenient. Annie spoke quietly. What happens to the charity money if they vote him out? Thomas looked at William, letting him answer. William said, if I am suspended under suspicion of embezzlement, the board can freeze the fund, appoint temporary oversight, and authorize emergency audits. That sounds good, Annie said. It sounds good, Thomas said. But if the wrong man controls the freeze, he controls what moves under the name of the audit. Annie understood. They steal it while pretending to protect it. Exactly. William looked at Thomas. Can you stop the scheduled email? I can, but we shouldn't. Annie stared at him. Why not? Because if we stop it too early, everyone involved knows they've been found out. They scatter, delete, blame her mother, blame a cleaning crew, blame a bad password. We need them to believe the trap still works. William's eyes shifted to Annie. No one is blaming her. Thomas did not soften his voice. Not while we control the room. Do we control the room? No one answered. That was the problem. William walked to his desk and picked up the office phone. I want Marla Brooks brought here quietly. Annie moved forward. No, please. She's sick. She is also the person whose badge was used to enter this office. If Evelyn moves first, your mother becomes the explanation. My mom didn't know. I believe you. She'll be terrified. I know. Annie's voice tightened. You don't know. Not like that. William turned to her. She regretted the words, but not enough to take them back. You can call a lawyer. You can call Mr. Reed. You can lock a door and make people wait. My mother gets one phone call from an agency supervisor, and she starts thinking about rent, medicine, groceries, whether I'll have to quit school, whether security is already downstairs. That's the kind of fear she lives with. It doesn't wait for facts. Thomas looked down, saying nothing. William set the receiver back without dialing. His voice changed. Not much, but enough. Then you call her. Annie blinked. You call her from your phone. Tell her you're safe. Tell her I'm sending a car. Not security. Tell her she is not being fired tonight. Can you promise that? Yes. People promise things when they want poor people to stay calm. William absorbed that. Then don't trust the promise. Trust this. If your mother is blamed, Evelyn wins. I don't intend to let Evelyn win. Annie studied him. It was not comfort, but it had logic. Right now, logic was safer than kindness. She called Marla. The phone rang 4 times before a tired voice answered. Annie, baby, are you done? Annie closed her eyes. Mom, listen to me. I'm okay. But something happened. William and Thomas stood silent as Annie tried to explain without frightening her mother beyond speech. That proved impossible. Within 30 seconds, Marla was crying, then coughing, then asking whether police were there. No, Mama. No police. Mr. Hartwell is here. He says you're not fired. William stepped closer. Annie looked at him, uncertain, then held out the phone. He took it. Miss Brooks, this is William Hartwell. The voice on the other end went quiet. I'm sending a car to bring you to the tower through the private entrance. Your daughter is safe. She did the right thing. Marla's voice came small and rough. Sir, please don't punish her. She was helping me. I know. She doesn't know how places like that work. William looked at Annie, standing under the office light with her mother's badge on her shirt and the truth on her phone. I think, he said, she knows more than most of us. When he handed the phone back, Annie's eyes were wet, but she turned away before either man could say anything about it. Thomas was already moving toward the computer. We need a clean copy of everything before Evelyn gets nervous. She already is, William said. Then we work faster. Outside the locked office, the tower remained quiet. Elevators hummed behind walls. Rain ticked against glass. Somewhere below them, Evelyn Cross was still in the building. And by morning, the people who had planned to bury William Hartwell would learn that the one person they forgot to fear was the girl sent to empty his trash. Thomas worked without sitting down. He pulled a pair of thin reading glasses from his coat pocket, connected a small encrypted drive to William's computer, and began copying what the system would allow him to touch without leaving a visible trail. The room had changed again. 10 minutes earlier, It had been a private office. Now it felt like a place where every object might speak against them, if handled wrong. Annie stood near the bookcase with her mother's badge still clipped to her shirt. She watched Thomas move through windows, logs, and file paths with the calm of a man cleaning a wound. William stood behind him, silent, his hands resting on the back of a chair he refused to sit in. "Don't stand over me like a statue," Thomas said. William did not move. "Is that your professional opinion?" "That's my old friend opinion. You make people nervous when you hover. I am not concerned with making people comfortable right now. You should be concerned with making the witness comfortable." William looked at Annie. She quickly looked away. Thomas kept typing. "She's the reason you still have a chance to walk into that boardroom tomorrow with your name intact. Try not to scare her into forgetting details." William's face tightened, but he stepped away from the desk. Annie noticed the effort. "I'm fine." "No," Thomas said, eyes on the screen. "You're not. But you're holding together. And that is useful." That almost made her smile. Almost. The office phone remained untouched. William's regular cell phone lay face down on the desk, powered off. Thomas had insisted on it the moment he arrived. "If Evelyn has help in IT," he had said, "assume your devices are polite little informants." William had not argued. He had spent a lifetime buying systems that were supposed to protect him. Now each one felt like a window someone else might be looking through. "How long before my mother gets here?" Annie asked. 15 minutes if the driver follows the route I gave him," William said. "Does he know why?" "No." "Does he work for Evelyn?" "He works for me." Annie gave him a look that was not rude, only tired. William understood. Tonight that distinction may not be enough. Thomas pointed at the monitor. "Here, this is the auto-send schedule. The email is set to release at 7:42 a.m. William stepped closer. "The board convenes at 8:30. Exactly. It gives them 48 minutes to panic. Call one another, read the attachments, and walk into the meeting already convinced they're saving the foundation from you." Annie folded her arms. "That sounds planned." "It is planned," Thomas said. "Good fraud respects human behavior. People don't make decisions from facts first. They make them from fear, shame, and whatever story reaches them before breakfast." William looked at the transfer window. "Can we trace the foreign accounts?" "Some, not all before morning, but I can tell you this much." Thomas opened one of Annie's photos beside the live system log. The accounts are arranged to look personal. Not corporate, not vendor. Whoever built this wanted the board to think you created a private escape route. "I didn't." "I know." William looked at him. "You sound sure." "I'm not sure because you're honorable. I'm sure because you're controlling. If you were stealing $48 million, you wouldn't leave a transfer order sitting open on your own screen like a drunk intern." Annie blinked, then lowered her head to hide the smile that finally escaped. William saw it. "Glad my innocence amuses you." "Sorry," she said, though she did not sound sorry. Before he could answer, Thomas raised one hand. "Quiet." The hallway camera feed on the side monitor flickered. William had not opened it. Thomas had. The view showed the executive corridor outside the office. Empty at first, then Evelyn appeared at the far end, walking back toward them with a phone pressed to her ear. Annie's smile vanished. William moved toward the door. Thomas caught his sleeve. "No. She's coming back. I can see that. She may have heard something. Or she wants to see whether the girl is still here. Either way, don't open the door angry." William looked at him. Thomas released his sleeve. "Open it, board." Evelyn knocked 3 times. Not urgent. Familiar. A knock from someone who expected to be answered. William waited 2 seconds, then unlocked the door and opened it only halfway. Evelyn stood with her tablet tucked against her ribs. Her expression held concern, but her eyes moved past William's shoulder before she spoke. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know you told me to go, but I just got a note from security. They're asking whether the cleaning girl should be logged as an incident." William leaned one hand against the doorframe. "At this hour, they flagged the badge discrepancy." "Did they?" "Yes. Marla Brooks logged in, but the woman in the corridor footage is not Marla Brooks." "That is accurate." Evelyn waited. William gave her nothing more. Her smile thinned. "William, I really think we should protect the company here. If there's any question of unauthorized access, especially before tomorrow's vote, We need documentation. Documentation can wait until morning. I disagree. I didn't ask you to agree. A pause opened between them. Evelyn's fingers shifted against the tablet. Is she still in there? Evelyn asked. Yes. And you're comfortable with that? No, I am managing it. She could have copied files. She could have. She could have planted something. Evaine. The way he said her name stopped her. William lowered his voice. Go home. She studied him. 12 years of service gave her a map of his moods. He could almost see her reading the lines. Tired, guarded, irritated, maybe suspicious. He gave her only what he wanted her to see. At least let me call legal, she said. No. David will want to know if this affects the morning. David can want whatever he likes. There it was, barely visible. A small tightening near her mouth when he said David's name. Annie, hidden behind the open angle of the door, saw it. Thomas saw it on the monitor. William saw Evelyn cover it with another professional smile. Of course, she said. I'll leave it alone. Good. She turned to go, then glanced back. William? Yes? Be careful with people who appear helpful at exactly the right moment. William held her gaze. I've been thinking the same thing. For 1 second, Evelyn's face emptied. Then the smile returned. Good night. William closed the door and locked it. Annie whispered, She knows. Thomas shook his head. She suspects. Different thing. William walked back to the monitor and watched Evelyn retreat down the corridor. This time, she did not go toward the elevator. She turned left, toward the executive lounge. Where does that lead? Thomas asked. Private offices, conference rooms, a stairwell. Any phones in the lounge? Yes. Company lines? Yes. Thomas unplugged his drive and slipped it into his coat. Then she's going to call someone without using her cell. William reached for the old phone. Can you capture it? If the call goes through internal routing, yes. If she uses her own device, no. The monitor showed Evelyn entering the lounge. The door closed behind her. Thomas moved quickly now. He opened a diagnostic panel, typed a string of commands, and brought up the internal call map. Lines of numbers appeared, most dormant. Then one extension lit. Executive lounge, Thomas said. Outgoing. To whom? Not a full number yet. Wait. Digits populated the screen. Thomas read them once and gave a low breath. William knew before he said it. Mercer. Thomas nodded. David Mercer's private line. Annie pressed one hand over her mouth. William looked at the glowing line on the screen as if it were a fuse burning toward morning. Can we hear it? Thomas was already working. Give me 10 seconds. They got 7. Evelyn's voice came through the computer speakers, lower than before, stripped of warmth. He's not acting right. The girl is still in his office. A man answered, calm and annoyed. Did she see anything? I don't know. You said you cleared her out. I did. She must have stayed nearby. David Mercer's voice sharpened. Then find out what she knows. William's eyes went to Annie. She did not move. Evelyn said, If I push too hard, he'll notice. He already noticed, David replied. Keep him contained until morning. Once the board sees the transfer, it won't matter what the cleaning girl says. The line clicked dead. No one spoke. Thomas saved the audio file, then saved it twice more. William looked at Annie. Her face had gone still in a way that bothered him more than tears would have. She called me the cleaning girl, Annie said. William's voice was quiet. I heard. My name is Annie. I know. Outside, the rain had softened against the glass, but the hour felt colder. Thomas removed his glasses. Now we have Mercer's voice. Enough? William asked. Enough to know where the knife is coming from. Not enough to stop the hand in front of the whole board. William looked at the locked door. Then we let them keep moving. Annie stared at him. You're going to let them send the email? No, Thomas said. We're going to let them think they can. William turned to Annie. Your mother will be here soon. When she arrives, she comes up through the service elevator. No lobby. No security desk. No Evelyn. And after that, William picked up Annie's phone from the desk and handed it back to her. After that, he said, We find out how many people in my company were willing to let your mother's daughter take the blame for their crime. The service elevator arrived without a chime. William had ordered it silenced years ago, after a donor with a migraine complained during a late reception. Now that small luxury worked in their favor. On the monitor, The elevator doors opened to a narrow back corridor used by caterers, maintenance crews, and people the tower preferred not to show its marble lobby. A driver in a dark coat stepped out first, then Marla Brooks appeared behind him with one hand pressed against the wall. Annie moved before anyone told her to. "That's my mom." William caught the edge of worry in her voice. Marla looked smaller on the camera than Annie had described her, wrapped in a brown coat too thin for the weather, a scarf knotted tight at her throat. She took 2 steps, stopped to cough, then waved off the driver's hand as if accepting help might cost extra. Thomas glanced at William. "No cameras between there and here? One at the elevator, one at the freight hall, both internal. Evelyn can see them if she asks. Then we don't give her time to ask." William opened the hidden service door near the bookcase and stepped into the short private passage that connected his office to the executive freight hall. Annie followed so closely she nearly bumped into him. At the end of the passage, Marla was waiting with the driver, breathing hard but standing upright because pride had gotten her that far. The moment she saw Annie, everything else disappeared. "Baba." Annie ran to her. Marla pulled her close with one arm and held the back of her head the way mothers did when they were checking whether a child had come back whole. Annie tried to speak, but Marla was already looking over her shoulder at William. "Mr. Hartwell," she said, voice rough from fever and fear. "Please." She was only helping me. She doesn't know these offices. I told her what to clean. If anybody broke a rule, it was me. William did not answer quickly. He had been apologized to by executives who stole, senators who lied, and men who wanted favors wrapped in regret. Marla's apology was different. It was not meant to save herself. It was a shield held up with shaking hands. "Miss Brooks," he said, "your daughter did not cause this. She used my badge. Yes, I know that's grounds for termination. Not tonight." Marla's eyes moved to Thomas, then back to William. "People say not tonight when they mean tomorrow morning." Annie looked down. William heard the same challenge Annie had given him earlier, only older, worn smooth by years of experience. "You're right," he said. "They do. So let me be clear. You are not being fired for this. Your daughter is not being turned over to security. And no report is going to be written by Evelyn Cross before we know exactly who used my computer." At Evelyn's name, Marla stiffened. Thomas noticed. "You know her?" Marla hesitated. "Everybody on the night crew knows Miss Cross." "That wasn't the question," Thomas said, not unkindly. Marla held Annie tighter. "She doesn't like mistakes." William almost said Evelyn disliked incompetence. He stopped himself. That was how men like him softened the cruelty of people who served them well. "What kind of mistakes?" he asked. Marla gave him a tired look. "The kind that happen when somebody is human." They brought her into the office through the private passage. Marla paused at the threshold, not because the room impressed her, but because she understood. It was the sort of place where blame could stick to poor people like smoke. Her eyes went to the overturned trash can, then the computer, then her badge on Annie's shirt. "I told you not to go near his desk," she said softly. "I know, Mama. I told you. I was leaving." Marla closed her eyes for a second. "Lord help me." William moved one chair away from the desk. "Sit down, Miss Brooks. I'm all right." "You're feverish." "I said I'm all right." Annie touched her sleeve. "Mom, please." Only then did Marla sit, and only on the edge of the chair. She kept her purse in her lap with both hands on top of it. Thomas set Annie's phone on the desk and turned the screen toward Marla. "Mrs. Brooks, I need you to watch something. It's short. It may be upsetting." "Miss," Marla said automatically. Thomas paused. "Miss Brooks." That small correction mattered. William saw Annie notice it. Marla watched the video without blinking. When Evelyn's voice said the board would think William stole from dying children, Marla's hand tightened around the purse strap. When it ended, she looked at Annie, not William. "You recorded that?" "Yes." "You stayed after she told you to leave?" "Yes." Marla's fear turned to anger for one hot second. "Annie, I know." "No, you don't know. You think telling the truth protects you because that's what they teach kids in school. But truth doesn't stand up by itself in places like this. It needs somebody powerful to carry it." The words hit William before he was ready. Marla was not accusing him. Not directly. That made it worse. Annie's voice dropped. "I couldn't leave it there." Marla looked at her daughter for a long moment. The anger went first. The fear stayed. "No," she said. "You couldn't." Thomas took back the phone. Miss Brooks, did Evelyn know Annie was your daughter? She knows I have a daughter. I don't talk much at work. Has she ever asked about Annie? Marla shook her head, then stopped. Once. Maybe 2 weeks ago. William leaned forward. What did she ask? I was changing the trash liner outside the small conference room. She came out and asked if my daughter was still looking at colleges. I thought she was being polite. Did you tell her? I said Annie wanted community college first, maybe accounting later if we could manage it. Marla looked at Annie. I shouldn't have said anything. Annie frowned. Mom, that doesn't matter, Thomas said. It might. If Evelyn knew your daughter was comfortable with numbers, she may worry Annie understood what she saw. Marla's face changed. So now my child is in danger because she paid attention in school? No, William said. She is in danger because people in my company committed a crime and expected people like you to be too afraid to speak. Marla looked at him then, really looked. People like us? William did not avoid it. Yes. The room held still. Marla nodded once, not approving, only accepting that he had at least named the thing correctly. Thomas returned to the computer. We have Evelyn on video, and Evelyn with Mercer on audio. We still need the system trail tied together before they can bury this in technical excuses. William checked the time, 12:58 a.m. How long? To preserve the logs? 20 minutes. To prove intent to a board that may already want you out? Longer. My board won't ignore hard evidence. Thomas gave him a flat look. Your board will do what boards do. Half will protect the institution. A quarter will protect themselves. And the rest will wait to see who wins. Annie spoke from beside her mother. Then why not call the police now? Marla flinched at the word. Thomas answered before William could. Because police reports before evidence is secured can become leaks. Leaks become headlines. Headlines become panic. By breakfast, the story becomes billionaire accused. Cleaning worker questioned. Guess which part of that headline survives? Annie looked at her mother. She understood. William hated that she understood. The office phone lit up without ringing. Internal call. Evelyn's extension. No one moved. Thomas looked at the display. Don't answer. William watched the light pulse. Once, twice, 3 times. The call stopped. A message appeared on William's regular phone, still powered off but mirrored on the office system before Thomas cut the link. Evelyn had sent it through the executive assistant channel. Need to confirm whether Marla Brooks is on site. Security asking. Marla read it from where she sat. Her face went gray. She knows I'm here. Thomas shook his head. She's fishing. William picked up the old phone. Can we move them somewhere else? Yes, Thomas said. But moving them creates more camera events. Right now, Evelyn knows Annie may be here. She suspects Marla. She doesn't know what we have. Marla stood. Let me go downstairs. I'll tell her I came to get Annie. I'll say she didn't see anything. No, Annie said. Marla turned on her. You don't get to know me right now. She'll know you're lying. I've lied to keep food on the table before. William's voice cut in, quiet but final. You are not going downstairs to protect my company from my employee. Marla faced him. I'm protecting my daughter. So am I. The answer surprised all 3 of them. William seemed surprised by it too, but he did not take it back. Thomas saved another copy of the logs, then removed the drive. We need an outside system. No company network. No building Wi-Fi. William, do you still have the old conference room with the deadline? 46th floor, east side. It was disconnected during renovation. Good. We'll work from there. Fewer cameras. No Evelyn access unless she physically goes looking. William nodded. Private stairs. Annie helped Marla up. Her mother's hand was hot. As they moved toward the hidden passage, Marla paused beside the desk. She looked at William's chair, the one Evelyn had sat in on the video. My mother used to clean houses in Cambridge, Marla said. She told me rich rooms always had 2 doors, one for the people who owned them and one for the people who made them shine. William said nothing. Marla looked at him. Tonight, Mr. Hartwell, you might want to remember which door saved you. Then she let Annie guide her into the passage. William stood alone for half a second, listening to the rain and the quiet hum of machines he no longer trusted. Then he followed them down the service stairs, away from the office where Evelyn Cross had borrowed his name, his chair, and nearly his ruin. They took the private stairs down 1 floor, not because it was far, but because every elevator in Hartwell Tower had a memory, and Thomas did not trust memories kept by machines. William went first, Thomas last, with Annie and Marla between them. Marla held the rail with one hand, and Annie's wrist with the other. She tried to hide how much each step cost her, but mothers had a way of hiding pain badly when their children were watching. "Mom, slow down," Annie whispered. "I'm fine." "You're not." Marla gave her a look. "This is not the night to argue with me. It's exactly the night to argue with you if you fall down these stairs." William glanced back. "We can stop." Marla lifted her chin. "No, sir. I'd rather not give your building another reason to notice me." No one answered that, because there was no clean answer. They reached the 46th floor through a service door that opened into a dim side corridor. The carpet smelled faintly of dust and old paint. Half the lights were off. This floor had once held a legal department before the renovation moved most of them downstairs. Now it was mostly empty offices, boxed furniture, dead phones, and framed photographs turned to the wall. Thomas led them to a conference room at the end of the hall. The nameplate outside still read, "Strategic Giving Committee." Though no one had met there in years, William unlocked it with a physical key from his coat pocket. Annie noticed. "You still use keys?" "For rooms I don't want the system to remember." "That's something rich people and poor people have in common," Marla murmured. "We both keep old keys." William held the door for her. She did not thank him until Annie had passed through first. The room was plain compared to his office. Long table, 12 chairs, a disconnected wall screen, a cabinet with stale paper cups, and a window facing the dark shape of another building. Thomas shut the blinds before turning on the light. William set the old phone and Annie's phone on the table. Thomas placed the encrypted drive beside them like a card in a game nobody wanted to play. Marla sat at last. Annie took the chair next to her, close enough that their shoulders touched. Thomas pulled out his laptop. "This machine has never touched your network?" "No," William said. "It belonged to outside counsel during the Kensington matter." "Good." Thomas opened it, then worked in silence for a minute. "I'm going to build a timeline. Annie, I'll need your photos in original order. Don't edit, don't crop, don't delete anything, even if it looks useless." "I didn't delete anything." "Good." William stood near the door, listening through the wood. Thomas looked up. "She's not coming down here yet." "You don't know that. I know Evelyn prefers other people to do physical work. If she wants this floor checked, she'll send security first." Annie's face tightened. "You said not to trust security." "I said don't trust the system," Thomas replied. "Individual guards are just people trying to finish a shift. The danger is, who gives them their story?" Marla rubbed her forehead. "Story?" Thomas nodded. "If Evelyn says, a cleaning worker may have stolen data, they come looking for a thief. If William says, a witness needs protection, they come looking for a witness. Same hallway, same person, different story." Annie looked down at her phone. "And people believe the first story they hear." "Most do," Thomas said. William turned from the door. "Not tomorrow." Marla looked at him with tired eyes. "You don't get to decide what everybody believes, Mr. Hartwell. I can decide what evidence they see. That helps. It's not the same thing." The words were not disrespectful. They were worse. They were experienced. Thomas began transferring Annie's photos by cable. Each image appeared on his laptop in sequence. The first showed the email header. The second, the signature line. The third, the foreign accounts. The fourth, the transfer amount. Thomas stopped there. "What is it?" William asked. Thomas zoomed in. "The routing code." William leaned over his shoulder. "Cayman account? Too obvious." "Look here. This intermediary bank routes through Dublin, then Zurich. Whoever built this wanted it to look like someone who thought he was clever but not clever enough." "You mean me," William said. "I mean a board would believe it was you if they already wanted to." Annie glanced at William. "Do they?" He did not answer. Marla did. "Somebody always wants the chair a powerful man is sitting in." William looked at her. She shrugged slightly. "I clean offices. I hear things through doors people think are thicker than they are." Thomas paused the transfer. "What have you heard?" Marla stiffened. "I'm not part of this. You are sitting in the middle of it. Because you brought me here. Because your daughter saw something that may save a charity fund and maybe save you both from being blamed. If you heard something, now is the time. Annie touched her mother's arm. Mama. Marla stared at the table. Her fingers moved over the strap of her purse. A few weeks ago, I was cleaning outside the executive dining room. Mr. Mercer was inside with Miss Cross. I wasn't listening. I was working. No one is accusing you, William said. Marla gave him a look that said accusation did not always need words. Then she continued. He said the board was tired of your grip on the foundation. He said donors liked your name, but not your rules. Miss Cross said, names can be useful even after the man attached to them becomes a problem. Thomas slowly sat back. William's expression did not change, but Annie saw his hand close around the top of a chair. Why didn't you report that? He asked. Marla's laugh was small and dry. To who? The woman who said it? The man she said it to? Security that answers to this floor? Human resources that sends my warnings to the agency that can replace me by Friday? William had no answer. Marla's voice softened, but only a little. People like me survive by knowing which truths are too expensive to say. Annie looked at her mother. You never told me. You had school. You had your own worries. I'm not a child. You're my child. That ended the argument because there was no winning against a sentence built like that. Thomas saved Marla's statement as handwritten notes, then looked at William. Mercer's motive is clearer now. He wanted control. Evelyn knew the office. Together they could build the appearance of your crime. William said, appearance is enough for a board vote, especially a rushed one. Annie watched the men speak, then asked, why Monday? Thomas looked at her. Good question. William turned. The quarterly donor report closes Monday afternoon. If I'm suspended in the morning, Mercer can argue for temporary authority before the audit lock engages. Thomas nodded. And if the transfer is framed as evidence of your theft, the real movement can hide inside the emergency response. Annie's face tightened with understanding. So the fake crime opens the door for the real one. Exactly, Thomas said. A soft knock came from the hallway. Everyone froze. Not Evelyn's 3 neat taps. This was 2 knocks, uncertain, then one more. William motioned for silence and moved to the door. Who is it? A male voice answered. Building maintenance. We got a report of a water leak on this floor. Thomas mouted. No. William's voice stayed flat. At 1 in the morning? Yes, sir. Dispatch sent us. William looked back at Thomas. Thomas had already opened the internal maintenance log on his laptop. He shook his head. No dispatch. Annie's hand found Marla's. The man outside knocked again. Sir? We just need to check the conference rooms. William stepped away from the door and spoke softly. How many? Thomas moved to the side wall where the old security peephole had been covered by a metal plate. He lifted the plate half an inch. 2. Maintenance uniforms. One's too broad for the shirt. Shoes are wrong, Marla whispered. Security? Maybe, Thomas said. Maybe not. William looked at Annie and Marla. Storage closet. Now. Annie helped her mother up. The closet was narrow, stacked with old binders and folded easels. Marla started to protest, then saw Annie's face and stepped inside. Annie followed, leaving the door open a crack. William returned to the conference table. Thomas closed the laptop halfway but left the screen alive under his palm. William opened the door. 2 men stood outside in gray maintenance shirts. The one in front held a clipboard. The one behind him held nothing, which told William more. Mr. Hartwell, the first man said, trying to sound surprised. Didn't realize you were up here. Clearly. We got a water leak report. No leak. We still have to check. William filled the doorway. From whom? Dispatch. What's her name? The man blinked. Sir? The dispatcher. What's her name? The man glanced once at his partner. Small mistake. Enough. William smiled without warmth. This floor has no active plumbing past the west restrooms, which are locked from the renovation. If someone sent you here for a leak, they don't know the building. The second man shifted his weight. Thomas stood behind William now, phone in hand, recording openly. William said, leave. The first man tried one more time. Sir, Miss Cross said. There it was. William's voice dropped. Miss Cross does not give orders on this floor tonight. I do. The 2 men held for 1 second, then backed away. Their footsteps retreated down the corridor. William closed the door and locked it. Annie opened the closet from inside. She sent them. Thomas reopened the laptop. She's testing where we are. Marla stepped out slowly. No. She's testing whether we scare easy. William looked at her. Marla met his eyes. Feverish. Exhausted. Still standing. You asked what people like us know. Mr. Hartwell. We know the difference. Thomas saved the last file. Then we stopped waiting for her next move. William turned to him. What do you need? A direct link to Mercer. Something he thinks is private. Something that makes him say the quiet part out loud. Annie looked at the dark hallway beyond the door. Can we make Evelyn call him again? Thomas looked at William. William looked at Annie. The girl who had come to empty trash had just suggested the next step in a corporate trap. William pulled out a chair at the table for the first time. Not for himself. For now, he said to Annie, sit down, and tell us exactly how Evelyn looked when she thought nobody important was watching. Annie sat because William asked her to, but she did not relax. She kept her phone close to her right hand and her eyes on the door. Marla sat beside her, one hand resting on Annie's knee, the other pressed against her side where the fever made every breath look like work. Thomas stood at the end of the table with his laptop open, waiting. William pulled out the chair across from Annie but did not sit. Start with Evelyn. Not what she said. How she moved. Annie frowned. How she moved. Yes. When she first came in, she looked surprised to see me, but not scared, more annoyed, like I was a spill on the carpet. Marla's hand tightened on her knee. Then, Thomas asked. She told me to leave. She didn't look at the computer right away. She looked at me, my badge, then the desk. When I walked out, she waited until the door closed. I could see her in the glass. She stood still for a few seconds, like she was listening. Listening for what? William asked. For my cart, Annie said. The wheels squeak. She waited until the sound got farther away. Thomas nodded. Good. Then she locked the door. William's eyes sharpened. With the manual lock? I don't know what kind. She turned something near the handle. The manual lock, William said. It doesn't show on the electronic panel. Thomas looked at him. Meaning if someone checked remotely, the room would still appear normal. William said nothing, but his face told Annie she had said something important. She sat in your chair, Annie continued. She didn't hesitate. She pulled the keyboard closer like she had done it before. She opened the folder fast. No searching. Thomas typed notes. And the phone call? She called someone after the USB was in. She didn't say hello. Just, it's ready. Like the other person was waiting. Did she say a name? No. But later, when she came back and you mentioned David, she looked different. William leaned forward. Different how? Only for a second. Her mouth got tight. Thomas glanced at William. You saw it too. Yes. Annie looked from one man to the other. So, what does that mean? It means Mercer matters, Thomas said. But we need more than mattering. We need him tied to the transfer in his own voice, not just by a system cue. Marla spoke quietly. You already recorded him talking to her. Enough to show coordination, Thomas said. Not enough to prove he ordered the fake transfer. A good lawyer could say they were talking about crisis management. William's mouth tightened. David has 3 lawyers for every lie. Then make him tell a bigger one, Annie said. Everyone looked at her. She lowered her eyes. I mean, if Evelyn is nervous, and she thinks I saw more than she knows, she'll call him again. Thomas studied her. What would make her nervous enough? Annie did not answer right away. She looked at the table, thinking, if she believes I gave Mr. Hartwell something, but she doesn't know what. William said, you already did, but she doesn't know that. She knows I had a phone. She knows I whispered to you. She knows you didn't let her take me downstairs. So she's wondering. Thomas leaned back. And wondering people call their partners. Marla shook her head. No, I don't like this. Mum. No, you are not bait. Annie turned to her. I already am. She saw my face. That doesn't mean you step closer to the fire. I'm not trying to be brave. Then don't be. I'm trying to be useful. Marla's face broke for half a second. Baby, useful is what people call you right before they use you. William absorbed that in silence. It was the kind of sentence no corporate training room would ever produce, because it had been earned the hard way. She's right, he said. Annie looked at him, surprised. William continued. You are not bait. Not for Evelyn, not for Mercer, not for me, Thomas said. Then we use the idea without using Annie. How? William asked. Thomas tapped the laptop. Evelyn wants to know what Annie captured. We give her a reason to think William is burying it. Then we give her a reason to think Annie may still have a copy. Marla looked wary. That sounds like using her. It uses Evelyn's fear of her, Thomas said, not Annie herself. William walked to the disconnected wall phone near the cabinet. This line is dead? Physically disconnected, Thomas said. William picked up the receiver anyway and held it near his ear, then set it down. Evelyn knows this room? Probably. She also knows I hate disorder. If she believes I've decided to contain this quietly, she'll expect me to call HR, not police. Thomas's eyes narrowed with interest. You want to let her overhear a fake HR message? Not overhear. Discover. William pulled his regular phone from his coat, still powered off, and placed it on the table. If I turn this on and send a message through the executive assistant channel, Evelyn will see it. Thomas frowned. Dangerous. Useful. What message? William looked at Annie, then Marla. Something Evelyn would believe I'd write if I thought Annie was the problem. Marla's eyes hardened. Choose your words carefully. I intend to. William powered on the phone. Thomas cursed under his breath and immediately opened a monitoring panel. 30 seconds. No more. William typed. Need HR file for Marla Brooks and visitor incident. Quiet handling before board meeting. No outside reporting yet. Annie read it over his shoulder and flinched at visitor incident. William saw it. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just make sure she believes it. He sent the message, then powered the phone down. Thomas watched his screen. Delivered through assistant channel. She'll see it. Marla rubbed Annie's arm. I hate this. So do I, William said. Marla looked at him. Good. They waited. Waiting had its own sound. The hum of old lights, rain at the window, Marla's uneven breath, Thomas's fingers hovering over keys. Annie stared at the door until her eyes hurt. 3 minutes passed. Then Thomas's laptop lit with activity. Executive lounge line again, he said. Outgoing to Mercer. William moved behind him. Annie rose despite her mother's hand. Thomas opened the capture. Evelyn's voice came through first, sharper now. He's going to bury the girl quietly. HR file. No outside reporting. David Mercer answered. Then why are you calling like that's bad news? Because he didn't let me handle it. He kept her in the room, and she had her phone. So take it. I can't walk in and take a witness's phone from William Hartwell's hand. Then make security take it. He sent them away. A pause. Then David's voice dropped. What exactly did she see? I don't know. You don't know? She saw the draft, maybe the transfer page, maybe more. If she saw the transfer page, she saw the approval queue. William's face went still. Thomas pointed at the screen as if the words themselves were visible. There, he knows, Evelyn said. Then move the queue. No. Moving it now leaves a correction trail. She may have pictures. Of what? The accounts, the signature folder, maybe me at his computer. Another pause, longer this time. David said, if she has video, she becomes the breach. Understand? Cleaning staff, accessed restricted systems, her mother's badge, her phone. We make her the story before William can make her the witness. Marla made a small sound. Annie did not move. Evelyn asked, and the transfer? It still goes at 7:42. Once the board packet lands, William is toxic. I don't care what the girl recorded. No board member is going to choose a cleaning woman's daughter over a CFO with documents. William's hand closed over the back of Thomas's chair. David continued. After the vote, I take interim authority. We freeze the fund publicly and reroute the reserve under audit protection. By noon, the money is out of reach. Thomas saved the file while the line still ran. Evelyn said, and Marla Brooks? Terminate her. Badge violation. Make it clean. Annie's voice came out barely above a whisper. No. Marla reached for her, but Annie stepped back, not from her mother, from the sentence. Evelyn said, William may object. William won't be chair by breakfast. The line ended. Thomas saved the recording twice, then a third time to the encrypted drive. No one spoke. There are silences that mean relief. This was not one of them. This silence had weight. William turned to Annie and Marla. I give you my word, he said. She will not terminate you. Marla's eyes were wet. but her voice stayed steady. Your word wasn't in charge of that phone call. No, William said. But by morning, his won't be either. Annie looked at him. You heard what he said. He thinks no one will believe me. I heard. He said no board member would choose me. William's face changed. Not anger alone. Shame had entered it too. Then tomorrow, he said, they will not be asked to choose between you and him. They will be made to choose between his lie and the truth. Thomas unplugged the drive and slipped it inside his coat. Now we have motive, method, timing, and intent. Enough? Annie asked. Thomas looked at her. Enough to start a war in a boardroom. Marla closed her eyes. Lord, I hate rich people's wars. William looked toward the dark window, where the reflection of all four of them hovered over the city. The billionaire, the investigator, the sick mother, and the daughter who had come to empty trash and found a crime. This one, he said quietly, started when they decided your family was disposable. Annie looked at him then, not trusting him fully. Not yet. But seeing that something in him had shifted, Thomas closed the laptop. Next step, we secure your mother and daughter somewhere Evelyn can't reach. Then we prepare the board packet. No, Marla said. All eyes turned to her. I'm not hiding while they call my child a thief. Annie whispered. Mom. Marla stood slowly, one hand on the table. Fever made her sway, but her voice did not. I spent years cleaning rooms after powerful people finished talking. I know what it means when they say quiet handling. It means somebody poor pays for somebody rich, staying clean. William nodded once. What are you asking? Marla looked at Annie, then back at him. When the time comes, if they say my daughter stole something, I want to be in that building. Not on a camera, not in a hallway. Close enough to look them in the face. Thomas started to object, but William lifted one hand. All right, William said. Annie stared at him. Just like that? No, William said. Not just like that. With protection, with evidence, with Mr. Reed controlling the timing. But your mother is right. People who are accused in silence rarely get their names back in public. Marla sat down again, exhausted by the effort of standing. Thomas checked the time. 1:43 a.m. We have less than 7 hours before the email is scheduled. William looked at Annie's phone on the table. Then we stopped thinking like defendants. Annie asked, what do we think like? William looked at the frozen hallway beyond the blinds, where Evelyn still believed she was hunting a scared girl and a sick mother. Witnesses, he said. And witnesses need the room arranged before they speak. Thomas called it arranging the room, but it looked more like preparing for a trial nobody had agreed to hold. He spread the evidence across the old conference table in 3 forms: digital copies on the encrypted drive, printed screenshots from Annie's phone, and handwritten notes in William's narrow script. Annie had never seen rich people prepare for danger. She expected shouting, maybe lawyers on speakerphone, maybe a line of black cars waiting outside. Instead, it was paper, order, silence, and the careful fear of men who knew how easily truth could be buried under procedure. William stood at the head of the table, reading the timeline Thomas had built. 7:42, the email releases. 8:30, the board convenes. By then, Mercer expects the room to have already judged me. Thomas nodded. He doesn't need them to prove anything. He needs them embarrassed enough to act fast. Boards hate embarrassment, William said. Boards survive by sacrificing whatever looks infected. Annie sat beside Marla, listening. Her mother's fever had not broken. A paper cup of water sat untouched near her hand. Annie pushed it closer. Drink, Mama. I'm not thirsty. You're sweating. I'm angry. There's a difference. Thomas looked over. Anger dehydrates too. Marla stared at him, then took the cup and drank half of it. You always talk like that? Only when people ignore basic medical sense. You a doctor now? No. Old enough to have been yelled at by several. That earned the smallest breath of a laugh from Annie, and for a moment the room remembered they were human. William did not laugh, but something in his face eased. Then the old phone vibrated once on the table. He picked it up, read the message, and his expression closed again. What? Thomas asked. Evelyn sent a calendar update to the board. Meeting location changed from the main boardroom to the executive conference room. Thomas frowned. Why? The executive room is closer to my office, easier to control entrances, or easier to control what appears on the wall screen, Thomas said. Does she manage the display system? Yes. Annie leaned forward. Then don't use that room. William shook his head. If I change it back, she knows I'm reacting. So let her pick the room, Thomas said. We bring our own display. William looked at him. A projector? A projector, a laptop, a clean power source, and someone in the room who is not on your payroll to witness the chain of evidence. Outside counsel? No. Too predictable. Mercer will have prepared for lawyers. Thomas tapped the table. You need a board member who still has a spine. William's mouth tightened. That narrows the list. Name one, William considered. Helen Whitaker, the retired judge? She's on the Foundation Oversight Committee, 70. 1. Hates waste, hates theatrics, hates me when I'm vague. Perfect. William picked up the old phone. Thomas stopped him. Not from that. Use a landline outside the building. There isn't one. Marla spoke without looking up. There's a payphone in the transit station under Congress Street. Everyone turned to her. She shrugged. Night cleaners know where working phones are. Cell batteries die. Buses run late. Sometimes you need to call home. William stared at her for 1 second too long, then nodded. Can we get there unseen? Thomas answered. I can. Marla set down the cup. I'll go. No, Annie said immediately. Marla turned to her. I know the station. They don't. You can barely stand. I can stand long enough to make a call. William said. Miss Brooks, I'm not sending you into the rain with a fever. I didn't ask you to send me. I said I'll go. Thomas folded his arms. Bad idea. Evelyn has already used maintenance. If anyone is watching service exits, they'll notice you. Then send me, Annie said. No. Marla and William said at the same time. Annie looked at William. You don't get a vote like she does. Tonight I do. You said I'm a witness. Witnesses aren't useful locked in a room. Useful is not the measure, William said. Safe is. Marla's eyes flicked to him. There was a quiet approval there she did not put into words. Thomas picked up his coat. I'll go. I still look like an old lawyer who got lost in the wrong building. You look like police, Marla said. Former federal investigator. That is worse. Thomas almost smiled. Then I'll look tired. William wrote Helen Whitaker's private number on the back of a business card. Tell her only this. William Hartwell requests her presence at the tower by 7:30. Private entrance. No staff. No company devices. Tell her it concerns the integrity of the morning vote. She'll ask questions. Tell her I'll answer them under oath if necessary. Thomas took the card. That she'll like. Before leaving, he copied the recordings to a second drive and placed it in Annie's hand. She stared at it. What am I supposed to do with this? Hold it, Thomas said. If William and I both get pulled out of this room, you and your mother take that drive and get out through the service stairs. Get out where? Anywhere with people and cameras not owned by Hartwell. William added, the lobby of the Park Plaza Hotel. It's open all night. Annie looked between them. You've thought about this before, William said. People with money think about exits. People without it are forced to. Marla touched the drive in Annie's palm. Put it in your sock. Annie blinked. My sock? Purse gets taken. Pockets get checked. Sock stays with you unless somebody has lost all shame. Thomas nodded. Your mother has better field instincts than half the agents I trained. Marla did not smile. I had landlords. Thomas left through the private stairwell. The door closed softly behind him, and the room seemed to lose one layer of protection. William checked the hallway monitor from Thomas's laptop, then returned to the table. Annie slid the drive into her sock while her mother blocked the view by adjusting her coat. William politely looked toward the blinds. Marla noticed. That manners or strategy? Both. Good. Keep both. A few minutes passed in quiet work. William wrote a second timeline. This one for the board. Annie watched his hand move across the page. You still don't trust me completely, she said. William did not stop writing. No. Marla's head lifted. Annie nodded slowly. At least you didn't lie. William set the pen down. Trust is expensive in my world. It's expensive in mine too. He looked at her then. Annie continued. Only difference is, when you trust the wrong person, you lose money. When we trust the wrong person, we lose jobs, apartments, sometimes each other. William accepted the correction. Tonight, I may lose more than money. Maybe, but you'll still have people asking for your side. Marla said quietly. Annie, no, Mom, it's true. William looked at the timeline. then at the badge still clipped to Annie's shirt. It is true. That admission did not fix anything, but Annie felt the air change. Not softer, more honest. At 2:31 a.m., the old phone vibrated. Thomas. Call made. Judge Whitaker coming. Not happy. William read it aloud. Marla exhaled. A judge is coming here? Retired judge, William said. That means she has time to be nosy. It means she has no reason to fear Mercer. Annie asked. Can she stop the vote? No, William said. But she can make it harder for them to pretend they didn't see the truth. A faint sound came from the hallway. All four heads turned, though Thomas was not there anymore. William moved to the laptop. The corridor feed showed no one at first. Then Evelyn appeared at the far end. This time she was not alone. A uniformed security supervisor walked beside her, broad-shouldered, holding a tablet. Marla whispered, She brought someone official. William watched them approach. She brought someone who thinks he is. Annie reached down, checking the drive in her sock. Evelyn stopped outside the conference room door. The security supervisor knocked. Mr. Hartwell, he called. This is Martin Hale with building security. We need to verify the welfare of an unauthorized visitor believed to be on this floor. William's expression did not move, but Annie saw the anger come into his eyes. Welfare, that was how powerful people dressed up a search when they wanted it to sound merciful. Marla struggled to stand. William raised one hand. Stay seated. The knock came again. Evelyn's voice followed, smooth and concerned. William, this really has gone far enough. Open the door, please. Annie looked at William. He looked back at her, then at Marla, then at the papers on the table. Now, he said quietly, we find out whether my name still opens doors in my own building. He walked to the door, unlocked it, and opened it wide enough for Evelyn to see that he was not alone, not afraid, and not ready to let her write the next sentence. William opened the door wide enough for Evelyn Cross to see the table, the papers, and Marla Brooks sitting beside her daughter. He did not move aside. Martin Hale, the security supervisor, stood half a step behind Evelyn with a tablet in his hand, and uncertainty already working its way into his face. He was not a bad man, William decided. Bad men entered rooms as if they owned the outcome. Martin looked like a man who had been handed a sentence and told to read it aloud. Mr. Hartwell, Martin said, I apologize for the disturbance, but we received a report of an unauthorized individual on the executive floors. You received it from Miss Cross. Martin glanced at Evelyn, then back at William. Through the proper channel, sir. Evelyn stepped in before the pause could grow teeth. William, we're only trying to protect you. This young woman used another employee's badge to enter restricted space. That has to be documented. Marla started to rise. Annie caught her wrist under the table. William kept his eyes on Evelyn. Documented by whom? Security, HR, legal if necessary. At 2:30 in the morning? The timing is unfortunate. The timing is convenient. Evelyn's expression held. That was one of her gifts. She could receive an insult and make it look like concern. I understand you're tired. Tomorrow is important. That's why this needs to be handled tonight before it becomes a distraction. William looked at Martin. Did Miss Cross tell you what this unauthorized visitor is accused of doing? Martin shifted. Possible access to confidential materials. Possible? That was the language in the report. Did she tell you the visitor may also be a witness? Martin blinked. No, sir. Evelyn's head turned slightly. A witness to what? William let the question hang. Annie could feel her heartbeat in her throat. The drive in her sock seemed suddenly heavy, though it weighed almost nothing. Marla's fingers rested over Annie's hand. Warm from fever and fear, William said, Martin, you have worked in this building how long? 6 years, sir. Have I ever asked you to ignore a security breach? No, sir. Have I ever asked you to remove someone from a room without knowing why? Martin hesitated. Evelyn saw it and stepped forward. This isn't about removal. It's about procedure. William's voice sharpened. Procedure did not bring you to this floor with a security supervisor after I told you to go home. For the first time, Evelyn's smile thinned past repair. Martin lowered the tablet. Mr. Hartwell, would you like me to leave? I would like you to wait in the hall and touch nothing. Evelyn turned to him. Martin, do not. William cut in. He asked me. Martin looked between them. It was a small moment, but everyone in the doorway understood it. Authority in a building can sound like many things. Title, habit, confidence, fear. Martin had to decide which one still mattered. "Yes, sir," he said to William. He stepped back into the corridor. Evelyn remained where she was. "You're making a mistake. I have made several tonight. That may not be one of them. You don't know this girl." "No." "You don't know her mother." "No." "You know me." William looked at her for a long second. "That is becoming the problem." The sentence landed. Evelyn's eyes changed. Not dramatically, but enough. The concern left them. What remained was calculation. "You're exhausted," she said. "You're letting a frightened girl confuse you on the worst possible night." Annie stood before she could stop herself. "I'm not trying to confuse anyone," Marla whispered. "Annie." But Annie was looking at Evelyn now. "You told me to leave. You said you'd call security. But you didn't. You went straight to his computer." Evelyn gave her the kind of smile adults used when they wanted a child to feel small. "Young lady, you were somewhere you had no right to be. Anything I did afterward was to secure Mr. Hartwell's office." "Then why did you use a USB drive?" Evelyn went still. William did not move. He watched Evelyn absorb the question and decide which mask to choose. "I don't know what you think you saw," Evelyn said. "I saw you copy files. You saw reflections through glass while hiding in a hallway. I recorded it." Evelyn's eyes flicked to Annie's phone on the table. There it was. Not fear. Recognition. William saw it, and so did Marla. Evelyn recovered quickly. "If she recorded inside a restricted office, that is even more serious." William said. "Yes, serious for someone." "William, listen to yourself. You are taking the word of a cleaning worker's daughter over mine." The room went quiet. Marla stood this time slowly. Annie did not stop her. "My daughter has a name," Marla said. Evelyn looked at her as if she had forgotten Marla could speak. "Miss Brooks, no one is attacking your daughter. You just did it politely." Evelyn's face tightened. "This is a corporate matter." "No," Marla said. "This is what happens when people like you think people like us are scenery until you need somebody to blame." Martin, still in the hall, looked down at his tablet. William opened the door wider. "Martin." "Yes, sir." "You heard that?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Remember it." Evelyn took one step back. "This is inappropriate." "So was sitting in my chair after midnight," William said. The words struck their mark. Evelyn did not deny it fast enough. William lowered his voice. "Go home." "I can't do that." "You can." "No," Evelyn said, and now the softness was gone. "I have a duty to this company." "You mean to David Mercer?" For half a second, the corridor beyond her seemed to grow still. Evelyn said, "David is the CFO. Of course I've spoken with him." "Tonight?" "Yes." "Because you are behaving irrationally." William nodded once. "Thank you." "For what?" "For confirming you spoke with him." She understood then that she had given away more than she meant to. Not enough to convict. Enough to expose the edge. Martin's radio crackled. He reached to silence it, but Evelyn spoke sharply. "Martin, I want Miss Brooks and her daughter escorted to the security office until this is resolved." Martin did not move. Evelyn turned on him. "That is a direct instruction." "From you?" William asked. "From the executive office." "I am the executive office." No one spoke. Then Martin said, carefully, "Mr. Hartwell, do you want them escorted anywhere?" "No." "Yes, sir." Evelyn stared at him. "You understand this will be reported." Martin's voice was quiet. "Yes, ma'am." William almost felt sorry for the man. Almost. Evelyn looked back into the room, at the table, the papers, Annie's phone, Marla's face. She knew she could not force entry now without making the scene too large. Her power worked best through quiet channels, not open struggle. "This isn't over," she said. "No," William replied. "It isn't." She turned and walked down the corridor, heels striking harder than before. Martin stayed where he was, until she disappeared around the corner. William looked at him. "You will not discuss this with Miss Cross." Martin nodded. "Understood. You will not enter this room unless I call you." "Yes, sir." "And if anyone asks where Miss Brooks and her daughter are?" Martin glanced at Marla and Annie, then back at William. His answer came slower, but firmer. "I haven't verified their location." William held his gaze. "Thank you." Martin left in the opposite direction. William closed the door and locked it again. Annie sat down because her knees had begun to weaken. Marla remained standing, breathing hard. "You shouldn't have said that to her," Annie whispered. Marla looked at her. "Which part?" "All of it. Some things are worth saying even if your voice shakes." William turned from the door. Your voice didn't shake. Marla looked at him. It did inside. The old phone vibrated on the table before anyone could answer. Thomas had sent a message. Whitaker confirmed. Arrive 7:20. Also found Mercer shell link. Need access to Donor Reserve Archive. William read it aloud. Donor Reserve Archive? Annie asked. The records that show where restricted charity funds can legally move, William said. Can Mercer change those? Not without a trace. Thomas's next message came immediately. Archive on 47th. Your office. Annie looked toward the ceiling as if she could see the floor above them. Marla sank slowly back into her chair. Of course it is. William's face was unreadable. Annie said, We have to go back up there? William looked at the locked door, then at the evidence spread across the table. I have to. No, Marla said. That woman is waiting for you to do exactly that. She may be, William said. But without those records, Mercer can argue the transfer order was a legitimate reserve movement. The board may not understand the difference fast enough. Annie picked up her phone. Then I go. No, William said. I know what the screen looked like. I know where she clicked. No. You need the archive. I need you alive and not blamed. I'm not a child. Marla said. Tonight you are mine, and that is close enough. Annie stopped. William looked at Thomas's message again, then made a decision. I go with Martin. Marla frowned. The security man? He just chose a side. Maybe for 5 minutes. Then I will use the 5 minutes. Annie stood. What do we do? William took the printed screenshots and slid them into a plain folder. You stay here with your mother. If I'm not back in 15 minutes. You and Marla leave by the stairs Thomas showed you. Park Plaza lobby. And you? I'll be creating a larger problem upstairs. That's not funny. It wasn't meant to be. He walked to the door, then stopped and turned back. Annie. She looked at him. If Evelyn comes back, do not argue with her. Do not defend yourself. Do not give her your phone. Annie's hand moved to her pocket. William's voice softened by 1 degree. The truth is not safer because it is true. It is safer because we protect it. Marla nodded once. That's the first sensible thing you've said all night. William almost smiled. Then he opened the door and stepped into the corridor, carrying the folder, the old phone, and the knowledge that the woman he had trusted for 12 years was somewhere above him, preparing to erase a girl who had only come to help her mother. William found Martin Hale waiting near the service stairs, exactly where he had told him to stay. The security supervisor looked at the folder in William's hand, then at his face, and seemed to understand the night had moved beyond badge violations. Sir, Martin said. Miss Cross went back to 47. Alone? I think so. She told me to check this floor and report directly to her. And you didn't? No, sir. Why? Martin shifted the tablet under his arm. Because when she said welfare check, she didn't sound worried about anybody's welfare. William studied him. Good answer. It may cost me my job. Not if I still have one by morning. Martin gave a thin smile that died quickly. That's not as comforting as you think, sir. William almost appreciated him for that. Come with me. We're retrieving Donor Reserve Archive records from my office. You will stand where I can see you. You will not call anyone unless I tell you. If Miss Cross appears, you say nothing unless she gives you a direct order. Then you ask whether I approve it. Martin nodded. Understood. They climbed the stairs in silence. William had taken these stairs maybe twice in 10 years. There had always been elevators, assistants, schedules arranged so doors opened before he reached them. Now the concrete walls felt more honest than the polished halls outside. No portraits. No donor plaques. Just gray paint, metal railings, and the sound of 2 men walking toward a room. Neither fully trusted. At the 47th floor, William paused before opening the service door. He looked at Martin. Your body camera on? No, sir. Executive floors don't require them. Turn on your phone recorder. Keep it in your breast pocket. Martin hesitated. Company policy. Company policy is being used as a weapon tonight. Record. Martin did. William opened the door. The corridor was empty. Evelyn was nowhere in sight. But her absence did not comfort him. It felt arranged. He moved toward his office with Martin 2 steps behind. The door was closed. William unlocked it, entered, and stopped just inside. His chair had been moved back into place. The trash can remained overturned near the desk, but the papers had been gathered into a neat stack. The computer screen showed the standard lock display. The desk lamp had been turned off. Martin whispered, "Did you leave it like this?" "No." William did not step farther in. He scanned the room the way Thomas would have. Desk, monitor, keyboard dock, side drawer, window table, archive cabinet along the interior wall. Nothing obvious missing. That was the problem. Evelyn did not make obvious mistakes unless she wanted someone to look there. He moved to the archive cabinet and opened it with the physical key. Inside were several binders and 2 fireproof cases. He took the gray binder marked Donor Reserve Restrictions, Children's Hope Fund. Martin stood near the door. "Sir." William turned. A small black object sat under the front edge of the desk, half hidden by shadow. Not a USB drive. Smaller. A wireless transmitter, perhaps. William did not touch it. Martin saw it too. "Is that yours?" "No." A voice spoke from the doorway. "I was wondering when you'd notice." Evelyn Cross stood in the hall, coat now over one arm, tablet in hand. Calm again. Too calm. William held the binder at his side. "Evelyn," he said, "you're becoming predictable. And you're becoming reckless." Martin straightened. Evelyn glanced at him. "Martin, you can return to your station." Martin looked at William. William said, "Stay." Evelyn's lips pressed together. "You're involving building security and foundation governance?" "No, I'm keeping a witness." "A witness to what?" "Your private meeting with a cleaning worker and her daughter. Your removal of restricted records from archive storage. Your refusal to file an incident report." William looked at her tablet. "You've been busy. I've been protecting you." "No," William said. "You've been protecting a story." Her expression hardened. "You always think you're the only person in the room who understands what's necessary. And tonight you decided to teach me?" "I decided," she said, voice low now, "that this foundation cannot be held hostage by one man's pride forever." There it was. Not the whole truth, but enough of its shape. "David's words or yours?" William asked. Evelyn smiled faintly. "You still want a villain simple enough to fire. I saw you at my computer. You saw what that girl gave you." Martin's eyes moved between them. William took one step toward Evelyn. "Careful." "No, William, you be careful." A frightened girl with her mother's badge, illegal access, video recorded through glass, files photographed from a private terminal. "Do you understand how that sounds?" "I understand how you intend to make it sound." She handed you a scandal, and because you enjoy being the judge in every room, you thought you could turn it into a revelation. William's grip tightened on the binder. "What did Mercer promise you?" That struck harder than he expected. Evelyn's face did not collapse, but her eyes changed. "Do you know," she said, "how many rooms I sat outside while men half as smart as I am walked in and were called leaders? Do you know how many signatures I prepared for you while people thanked you for work I made possible? You wanted recognition? I wanted the institution protected from your need to control every dollar, every name, every decision. And so you helped frame me for stealing from children." Evelyn looked away first. Only a fraction. William saw it. Martin's phone, still recording in his pocket, caught the silence. Evelyn recovered. No one was supposed to be harmed. The fund would be frozen, reviewed, restructured. Mercer had a plan. Mercer had accounts. "I don't know about accounts. You knew enough to sit at my desk after midnight." Her voice sharpened. "Because you would never step aside unless the room forced you." William stared at her. 12 years condensed into one hallway. Flowers sent. Schedules kept. Crises managed. Trust converted into access. He had thought betrayal would arrive with anger. It had arrived with administrative competence. Behind him, the office phone lit silently. Evelyn's eyes flicked to it. William did not move. The phone lit again. Internal line. David Mercer. Evelyn looked back at William. "You should answer." "Why?" "Because if you don't, he'll know something is wrong." William walked to the desk and lifted the receiver, but he did not speak. He pressed speaker. David's voice came through, tight. "Is it done?" William watched Evelyn. She did not breathe. David continued. "Evelyn, answer me. Did you get the girl's phone?" William said, "No." Silence. Then David Mercer spoke again, carefully now. "William." "David." A soft click sounded as if David had shifted the phone away from his mouth. When he returned, his tone had changed. "I don't know what Evelyn has told you, But if there's been a misunderstanding tonight, we should handle it with counsel present. William said, You wanted the girl's phone. I wanted to know whether confidential materials had been compromised. You wanted to know whether she recorded Evelyn copying my signature archive. Evelyn closed her eyes. David said nothing. William continued. You set the email for 7:42. You tied the transfer to my signature. You expected the board to remove me by breakfast. By noon, you planned to move the reserve under audit protection. Another silence, but this one had panic inside it. David's voice returned colder. You can't prove intent. William looked at Martin. Martin's phone still recorded. William looked at Evelyn. She knew it now. No, William said. But you keep helping. David hung up. The office became quiet except for rain and the faint hum of the locked monitor. Evelyn looked at William, and for the first time all night, she seemed older. You don't understand what Mercer has already put in motion. Then explain it. She shook her head. If I talk, I'm finished. William's voice was steady. Evelyn, you are finished deciding who pays for your choices. Martin shifted near the door. Sir, should I call outside police? Not yet, William said. Evelyn laughed once, still controlling the timing. Yes, William said. Because this time timing protects Annie Brooks instead of burying her. At Annie's name, Evelyn looked toward the hall, as if only then remembering the girl not as a problem, but as a person who had survived the first attempt to erase her. William took the donor reserve binder, the small transmitter still untouched under the desk, and backed toward the door. Martin, he said, photograph that device without moving it. Martin did. Evelyn did not try to stop them. That worried William more than a struggle would have. As they left the office, she spoke behind him. William, he turned. The board packet is already prepared. Mercer doesn't need the email to start the vote. William held her gaze. Then we'll be early. He walked back toward the service stairs with Martin beside him, the binder under his arm and Evelyn's warning following him down the corridor like smoke. When he returned to the 46th floor, Annie stood the moment he entered. Marla did too, slower. William placed the binder on the table. We have the records, he said. Annie looked past him. Where's Evelyn? In my office. Did she admit it? Enough. Thomas was not back yet, but the old phone vibrated on the table with a new message. Whitaker in transit. Mercer sent emergency board packet early. Check email. William looked at the dead company phone, then at Thomas's laptop. Annie understood before anyone said it. He didn't wait until 7:42. No, William said. He got scared. Marla closed her eyes. Scared people hurry. William opened the binder and turned to the first restriction page. Then we hurry better. Thomas came back 5 minutes later with rain on his coat and bad news already in his face. He had entered through the service stairs, not the hallway, and he stopped when he saw the donor reserve binder open on the table. You got it, he said. Mercer moved early, William replied. I saw. Thomas placed a paper bag on the table. Judge Whitaker is on her way. She was already awake. Apparently retired judges don't sleep when someone says, integrity of the vote. What's in the bag? Annie asked. Coffee, plain bagels, 1 banana. It was the only food in the station kiosk that looked like it might not hurt anyone. Marla looked at the banana as if it were an insult and a blessing at the same time. Annie took it, peeled it, and handed half to her mother. I'm not hungry, Marla said. Eat it anyway. Marla accepted the banana because arguing took strength. Thomas opened his laptop and connected the encrypted drive. Mercer sent the emergency board packet at 2:54 a.m. Not to the full board yet. To 5 members. The ones most likely to panic. William looked up from the binder. Which 5? Thomas read from the screen. Leland Price, Arthur Voss, Celia Graham, Richard Nance, and Peter Oldham. William's mouth tightened. Annie watched him. Those are bad names? They are nervous names, William said. Nervous people become dangerous in groups, Thomas added. The packet includes the draft email, transfer screenshots, a statement saying you may have used foundation reserves for undisclosed offshore movement, and a recommendation for emergency suspension pending review. Marla set the banana down. He already called you guilty without saying guilty. That is what lawyers teach executives to do, Thomas said. William turned a page in the donor reserve binder. He doesn't have the restriction clause. He may not need it if they vote before reading. Then we make them read. Annie leaned closer to the binder. What does the clause say? William turned it so she could see. The page was dense, full of legal language and donor terms. Annie read the first lines, then frowned. In English? She asked. Thomas answered, money in the Children's Hope Fund can only move to approved hospitals, patient support vendors, or pre-cleared emergency care partners. It cannot move to reserve intermediaries, offshore accounts, investment vehicles, or audit shelters without unanimous donor consent. So the transfer couldn't be real, Annie said. Not legally, William said. Not if it came from me, but they wanted it to look like you did something illegal. Exactly. Annie tapped the page. Then this proves the transfer was fake. It proves it to anyone willing to slow down, Thomas said. Mercer's plan depends on speed. The old phone vibrated. William read the message and placed it on the table so Thomas could see. From Judge Whitaker. Arriving 7-8. If this is drama, I will be unpleasant. Thomas gave a short laugh. That's her. Marla looked at the clock. It's not even 3:30. William said, Mercer won't wait now. He'll push for an emergency call before the official meeting, as if called by the sentence. Thomas's laptop chimed with a calendar alert pulled from William's mirrored board feed. Emergency board discussion. 6:15 a.m. Remote access available. Agenda, leadership, continuity, and foundation risk. Annie stared at the words. Leadership continuity means removing you? It means deciding how to do it without saying that too early, William said. Marla rubbed her temple. Why can't anybody rich just say what they mean? Thomas said, because plain speech creates plain responsibility. William closed the binder. We attend. Thomas looked at him. Too soon. If I don't, Mercer defines the room. You need Whitaker there. She'll arrive before the official vote. Mercer is moving before that. William looked at Annie's phone on the table. Then we move with what we have. Marla lifted her head. What about Annie? She stays out of the call. Annie sat straighter. No. William said her name quietly. Annie. No. He's already telling them I did something. If I'm not there, they get to imagine whatever version of me helps them sleep. Marla's voice was tired but firm. I don't want you on that screen. I don't either, William said. Annie looked at both of them. You keep saying I'm a witness, but every time the truth gets close to important people, you want to put me behind a door. Thomas folded his hands. That is not entirely unfair. William gave him a look. Thomas ignored it, but appearing too early gives Mercer a target. We need the board to hear his story first, then hear the recording, then see you. If you appear before the evidence, he frames you as the breach. Annie hated that he was right. It showed on her face. Marla touched her arm. Baby, sometimes you don't step forward first. Sometimes you wait until the lie has used up its breath. Annie looked down. I'm tired of waiting for people to finish lying. I know, Marla said. Me too. William turned to Thomas. Set up the call from here. No company camera. Audio first. Thomas nodded and began routing through the old laptop. He used Judge Whitaker's incoming arrival as leverage, sending a short message to the board's emergency thread under William's name. I will attend. No vote before full evidence is placed on record. Helen Whitaker has been asked to observe. The response came fast. Leland Price. Helen? At this hour? Then Mercer. This is not a courtroom, William. William dictated, and Thomas typed. No, it is a foundation. We will behave as if facts matter. Marla murmured. That one I like. At 6:15, the emergency call opened on Thomas's laptop. No one used video at first. Names appeared in small boxes. David Mercer, Leland Price, Celia Graham, Arthur Voss, Richard Nance, Peter Oldham, William Hartwell. Evelyn's name appeared as executive administrator. William stared at it. Thomas muted their side. Ready? No, William said. Start. David Mercer's voice entered first, smooth and grave. Thank you all for joining at this hour. I regret the urgency, but the materials circulated tonight raise serious concerns about Mr. Hartwell's handling of restricted charitable reserves. William did not speak. Mercer continued. Given the timing of the quarterly donor report and the potential exposure to the Children's Hope Fund, I believe we must consider temporary leadership continuity measures before the formal board session. Arthur Voss said, "Are we certain the transfer authorization is genuine?" Evelyn answered before Mercer could. "The signature appears to match Mr. Hartwell's executive validation record." William's hand closed slowly on the table edge. Celia Graham asked, "William, are you on?" William unmuted. "I'm here." The call went quiet. Mercer said, "Then perhaps you can explain why a $48 million transfer from Children's Hope was staged through foreign accounts under your signature." William kept his voice even. "No. But I can explain why you needed them to think I did." "Excuse me?" William looked at Thomas. Thomas nodded. William said, "Before this call goes one sentence further, let the record show that David Mercer circulated an emergency accusation before informing the full board, before contacting outside counsel, and before preserving the original system logs." Mercer gave a dry laugh. "This is exactly the kind of deflection I feared." "No, David. Deflection is accusing me with a forged email while preparing to take interim authority over the fund you intended to move." Several voices overlapped. Leland Price said, "What does that mean?" William said, "It means the board is being used." Evelyn's voice came in, calm but tighter than usual. "William, no one is using the board. We are trying to protect the institution from a serious breach." Thomas clicked a file. Evelyn's recorded voice filled the room and the call. "It's ready. By Monday morning, the board will think he stole from dying children." No one on the call spoke. Thomas stopped the clip. William said, "That was recorded tonight in my office. Miss Cross was seated at my computer, copying my signature validation archive." Evelyn said, "That recording was obtained illegally by an unauthorized visitor." William replied, "Interesting. You did not say it was false." Another silence. Mercer cut in. "Even if Evelyn mishandled internal files, that does not explain your signature on the transfer." Thomas played the second recording. David's own voice came through. "If she has video, she becomes the breach." Cleaning staff accessed restricted systems. Her mother's badge. Her phone. We make her the story before William can make her the witness. Then, after the vote, I take interim authority. We freeze the fund publicly and reroute the reserve under audit protection. By noon, the money is out of reach. The sound ended. This time, the silence was different. It had no procedure left to hide in. Leland Price spoke first. "David?" Mercer said nothing. Celia Graham's voice shook with anger. "Was that you?" Mercer replied, "I will not respond to edited audio in an unscheduled ambush." William said, "You scheduled the ambush. We brought the lights." Marla, sitting beside Annie, closed her eyes at that. Annie did not. She watched William, as if seeing, for the first time, why people feared him. Thomas slid the donor reserve binder in front of William. William continued, "The Children's Hope Reserve cannot legally move through the accounts listed in your packet. Not under my authority. Not under emergency audit. Not without unanimous donor consent. The restriction clause is in the donor archive, page 42. I have it in front of me. Judge Whitaker will have a copy when she arrives," Arthur Voss said. "Then, the transfer order was never legitimate." "No," William said. "It was bait. For you." Evelyn's box disappeared from the call. "She dropped," Thomas said quietly. Mercer stayed on, but said nothing. William looked at the screen of names. "The full board meeting remains at 8:30. No suspension vote will occur before all members hear the evidence, including the witness who found what my own systems missed." Leland asked, "Who is the witness?" William looked at Annie. Annie looked back. He did not say her name yet. "A young woman this company was prepared to blame," William said. "That ends today." At that moment, Thomas's old phone vibrated with a message from the private entrance downstairs. Whitaker arrived, angry. William muted the call and stood. "Good," he said. "Now we can begin properly." Judge Helen Whitaker entered the 46th floor conference room at 7:12 a.m., wearing a navy coat, flat black shoes, and the expression of a woman who had spent 40 years listening to excuses and had not enjoyed most of them. Her silver hair was pinned back. Her glasses hung from a thin cord around her neck. She carried no purse, only a leather folder tucked under one arm. Thomas opened the door for her. She looked at him first. "Read. If this is one of your dramatic midnight instincts, I'm leaving." "It's morning now," Thomas said. "That does not improve it." William stepped forward. "Judge Whitaker, William. She did not offer her hand. Her eyes went to Marla, then Annie, then the papers on the table. You said integrity of the vote. That is not a phrase I like hearing before breakfast. It was accurate. It had better be. Thomas closed the door and locked it. Judge Whittaker noticed but did not comment. She removed her coat and placed it over the back of a chair. Only then did she look at Annie. And you are? Annie stood, because her mother had raised her that way. Annie Brooks, ma'am. Sit down, Miss Brooks. Standing does not make truth more truthful. Annie sat. Marla almost smiled despite herself. William placed the donor reserve binder in front of the judge. Everything begins here. No, Judge Whittaker said. Everything begins with why I am in a half-empty conference room instead of the boardroom. Give me the story in order. No speeches. William gave it to her cleanly. Annie came in for Marla. The computer screen lit up. The email appeared. Annie took photographs. Evelyn entered. Removed Annie. Returned to William's computer. Copied data. And spoke on the phone. William returned. Found Annie. Viewed the evidence. Thomas arrived. Mercer was tied to the transfer, then to the plan through internal calls. The early board packet went out before the scheduled vote. Judge Whittaker did not interrupt for nearly 5 minutes. That worried Annie, more than questions would have. When people were quiet too long, they were either listening or building a wall. At last, the judge looked at Thomas. Recordings? Thomas played them. She listened with both hands folded on the table. At Evelyn's line about the board believing William stole from dying children, her mouth tightened. At Mercer's line about making Annie the breach before William could make her the witness, she looked at Annie, then at Marla. Not with pity, with recognition. When Mercer's voice spoke of freezing the fund and rerouting the reserve under audit protection, Judge Whittaker raised one finger. Thomas stopped the audio. Play that sentence again. He did. She leaned back. That is not crisis management. That is intent. William exhaled through his nose. Do not look relieved, she said. Intent must still be carried into a room full of people who may prefer confusion. Thomas handed her the printed screenshots. She reviewed each one, then the donor restriction clause. Page 42? Yes, William said. Who else is this Binder? Legal archive? Donor compliance. My office copy. Mercer? Access to digital summaries, not original restrictions. Evain? My office. The judge looked at him over her glasses. A generous phrase for unlimited access. William accepted it. Yes. She turned to Annie. Miss Brooks, I need to ask you something. Annie straightened. Yes, ma'am. Did anyone ask you to go into Mr. Hartwell's office? My mother asked me to clean it. Not go through anything. Did anyone offer you money to take photographs? No, ma'am. Did Mr. Hartwell ask you to record Miss Cross? No. I recorded before he came back. Why? Annie glanced at Marla. Her mother gave the smallest nod. Because if I didn't have proof, nobody would believe me. Judge Whittaker waited, Annie added. And because when Miss Cross saw me, she acted like I was already guilty. I knew if something happened later, her story would get there before mine. The judge's face changed, not softer, but more focused. That is a very old problem. Marla said, Yes, Mom. Judge Whittaker looked at her. Miss Brooks, you used your badge to allow your daughter into a restricted office. Marla's back stiffened. Yes, ma'am. That was a violation. Yes, ma'am. Why? Marla folded her hands in her lap. Because I was sick, and I was scared they'd replace me if I missed another shift. My daughter was helping me keep food and medicine in the house. William looked down. Judge Whittaker did not. That does not erase the violation. No, Ma. But it explains why people with less power make choices people with more power like to judge from comfortable chairs. The room went quiet. Marla looked at her hands. Yes, ma'am. The judge closed the folder. Good. Then we have two matters. One is a badge violation. The other is a conspiracy to frame the chair of a charitable foundation and steal restricted funds. Only a fool or a guilty party would pretend those are equal. Annie felt something loosen in her chest. William said, The full board meets at 8:30. No, Judge Whittaker said. The full board thinks it meets at 8:30. Mercer has already moved the battlefield. We move it again. How? We do not walk in looking defensive. We walk in with order. Evidence first. Questions second. Accusation last. People who want panic must be denied panic. Thomas nodded. Agreed. Judge Whitaker pointed at Annie's phone. The original video stays with Miss Brooks. A copy goes to me. A copy goes to Reed. No one touches her phone without her consent. William said, yes. And she does not sit outside like a servant waiting to be called. Marla looked up sharply. William hesitated. I wanted to protect her from being attacked. You protect a witness by preparing the room, not by hiding her existence until powerful people have finished describing her. The judge turned to Annie. Can you speak clearly if asked what you saw? Annie's mouth went dry. I think so. That is not an answer I accept in court or breakfast meetings. Annie took a breath. Yes, ma'am. I can. Good. Say only what you know. No guessing. No arguing. If someone insults you, let them reveal themselves. Do not help them by becoming angry too soon. Marla murmured, that's harder than it sounds. Judge Whitaker looked at her. Most useful things are. The old phone buzzed. Thomas checked it. Board members arriving. Mercer is already in the executive conference room. Evelyn, too. William's eyes hardened. She came back. Of course she came back, the judge said. People who build fires like to watch others cough. At 8:06, they left the 46th floor through the private stairwell. Martin Hale met them at the landing. When he saw Judge Whitaker, he stood straighter. Ma'am, Mr. Hale, she said, reading his badge. You are security? Yes, ma'am. Then secure. Do not interpret. Do not editorialize. Do not let anyone remove these two women from the room, unless I say so, or Mr. Hartwell says so in my presence. Clear? Martin looked at William. The judge snapped. I asked you. Yes, ma'am. Clear. Annie leaned close to Marla. I like her, Marla whispered. Don't say that too loud. She'll make you testify about it. They reached the executive conference room at 8:19. Through the glass wall, Annie saw the board members already seated around a long table, mostly older, mostly white, dressed in dark suits and careful expressions. David Mercer stood near the wall screen, speaking to two men. Evelyn sat near William's usual chair with a tablet open in front of her. When she saw Annie, the color drained from her face for half a second. Then Evelyn saw Judge Whitaker. The tablet lowered. William paused outside the door. He looked at Annie. Last chance to stay outside. Annie shook her head. No, sir. Marla's hand found hers. We walk in together. Judge Whitaker opened the door without knocking. Conversation stopped. William entered after her, then Thomas, then Annie and Marla, with Martin remaining by the door. The room adjusted to them. Annie felt the adjustment. Eyes moved to her shoes, her borrowed badge, her phone, her mother's coat. She had felt rooms judge her before. This one just did it with better tailoring. David Mercer recovered first. William, this is highly irregular. Judge Whitaker placed her leather folder on the table. So is framing a man before breakfast. Let us not pretend irregularity bothers you now. No one spoke. William took his place at the head of the table but did not sit. This meeting will proceed on the record. Mr. Reed will control the evidence display. Judge Whitaker will observe the integrity of the process. Miss Brooks and her daughter are present as witnesses. Evelyn said, William, involving cleaning staff in a board matter is not appropriate. Before William could answer, Judge Whitaker looked at Evelyn. Miss Cross, if your objection is that the witness is poor, say so plainly and save us time. Evelyn's mouth closed. Annie felt Marla's hand tighten around hers. Thomas connected his laptop to a portable projector he had brought under his coat. The wall screen behind Mercer stayed dark. Their own evidence appeared on a plain white section of wall beside it. William looked around the table, meeting each face. At dawn, he said, several of you received a packet suggesting I stole $48 million from the Children's Hope Fund. Before anyone in this room votes on my name, my chair, or that fund, you are going to see how that lie was built. David Mercer sat slowly. Annie watched him. For the first time, the man who had planned to make her the story looked as if he understood she had come into the room with the ending. Thomas did not begin with accusation. He began with the email. The projector threw the image onto the white wall, the subject line, the transfer amount, the foreign accounts, William Hartwell's electronic signature at the bottom. Around the table, the board members leaned forward. Some had already seen it in Mercer's packet, but on the wall it looked larger, colder, harder to dismiss. David Mercer folded his hands. This is the document we circulated because it raised legitimate concern. Judge Whitaker did not look at him. You will have time to explain your concern after the evidence is presented. Mercer's mouth closed. William stood beside the screen, not in front of it. This email was designed to be sent before the official board vote. It was meant to reach you while you were tired, alarmed, and separated from one another. Leland Price, a thin man with silver hair and reading glasses low on his nose, said, "William, the document bears your signature. It bears a copy of my signature." Arthur Voss shifted in his seat. "Can you prove that?" Thomas clicked to the next image. This is a photograph taken before the email was sent. It shows the draft on Mr. Hartwell's computer, along with the signature validation folder and the transfer queue. Celia Graham frowned. "Who took the photograph?" The room moved, almost as one, toward Annie. William answered before anyone else could. "Annie Brooks." Mercer leaned back. "The unauthorized visitor." Judge Whitaker turned her head slightly. "Careful, Mr. Mercer. Labels are not evidence." Annie felt her throat tighten, but she stayed standing beside her mother. Marla's hand was warm around hers. Thomas continued. "Miss Brooks took these photographs after the screen activated while she was cleaning Mr. Hartwell's office in place of her mother. Marla Brooks, who was ill." Richard Nance, who had not spoken yet, muttered, "That alone is a security breach." Marla's shoulders stiffened. William looked at him. "Yes, it is. We can discuss the badge violation after we discuss the attempted theft of $48 million from sick children." The words settled the table. Thomas clicked again. The next image showed the transfer page and the small approval line. D. Mercer. Approval queue. This time, no one leaned forward. They went still. Mercer spoke quickly. "That proves nothing. As CFO, my name appears in hundreds of approval queues. It does not mean I created the transfer." Thomas nodded. "Correct. Alone, it proves access, not intent." He clicked again. The video began. At first, the room saw only fragments. The edge of William's desk, the lamp, the open computer. Then Evelyn Cross entered the frame. Evelyn did not move in her chair. Her face had gone pale, but she kept her hands on the tablet as if holding a hymnal in church. On the wall, she sat in William's chair and inserted the USB drive. A board member whispered, "My God." The video continued. The folder opened. The files moved. Then Evelyn's recorded voice filled the room. "It's ready. By Monday morning, the board will think he stole from dying children." The clip ended. No one spoke, not because they did not understand, because they did. Evelyn finally lifted her chin. "That video was taken without authorization," Judge Whitaker said. "Again, you object to how the truth arrived, not whether it is true." Evelyn's eyes flashed. "Judge, with respect, I have not yet heard respect in this room. Continue carefully." Thomas played the second recording, the call between Evelyn and David. Mercer's voice came through clearly enough that pretending became impossible. "If she has video, she becomes the breach. Cleaning staff accessed restricted systems. Her mother's badge. Her phone. We make her the story before William can make her the witness." Marla's grip tightened. Annie stared at the wall, but she was no longer seeing the projected text. She was hearing the way he had said cleaning staff, as if her mother's work made them available for sacrifice. The recording continued. "After the vote, I take interim authority. We freeze the fund publicly and reroute the reserve under audit protection. By noon, the money is out of reach." Thomas stopped the audio. Leland Price removed his glasses. "David." Mercer did not answer. Celia Graham's voice was low. "Was that you?" Mercer stood. "I will not respond to illegally recorded audio presented without authentication," Thomas said. "The files have been copied to independent media and logged. Judge Whitaker has the chain notes. Authentication can be performed, but we all know whose voice that is." Arthur Voss looked at Evelyn. "Did you copy the signature archive?" Evelyn's mouth opened, but no answer came quickly enough. William said, "She did." Mercer snapped. "You are trying to save yourself by dragging loyal employees through the mud." That was when Annie spoke. She did not mean to. The words came before she had decided whether she had permission. She wasn't loyal. Every face turned. Annie felt heat rise in her cheeks. Marla whispered, "Annie," but Judge Whitaker said, Let her finish. Annie swallowed. Her voice shook at first, then steadied because she stopped looking at the whole table and looked only at William's chair, the one Evelyn had used. She came in after me. She told me I didn't belong there. Maybe she was right. I wasn't supposed to be in that office. But she didn't call security. She waited until I left, locked the door, sat at his computer, and copied files. Then she said all of you would think he stole from dying children. Evelyn said, "You don't understand what you saw." Annie looked at her. "I understand being talked down to. I understand when somebody wants me gone before I can say what happened." Mercer gave a small laugh. "This is emotional theater." William's hand struck the table once. Not loud enough to be violence. Loud enough to end the sentence. "No," he said. "This is the witness you planned to bury." The room held. William turned to Annie. "Tell them why you took the pictures." Annie looked at her mother. Marla nodded, though her eyes were wet. "I took them because nobody believes people like us without proof," Annie said. "My mother told me that when I was little, if something goes missing in a place like this, they remember your face before they remember the truth." No one moved. She continued, "I didn't come here to expose anyone. I came because my mother was sick and scared she'd lose her shift. I was going to empty the trash, wipe the desk, and leave. That's all." Then the screen came on. I saw the email, the accounts, the signature, the money moving out of a children's charity. And I thought if I walked away, maybe children who needed that money would never know why it was gone. Celia Graham looked down at the table. Annie's voice softened. "I don't know corporate law. I don't know board rules. But I know what it looks like when somebody powerful thinks somebody poor can be blamed." Marla closed her eyes. Judge Whitaker looked at the board. "That is the clearest testimony offered in this room so far." Mercer's face hardened. "Are we truly allowing a cleaning woman's daughter to dictate foundation governance?" The sentence had barely finished when William answered, "No, we are allowing the only person in this building who told the truth when it could cost her everything to be heard." The room went silent again, but this time it was not shock. It was shame working its way through expensive suits. Marla stood beside Annie. Her voice was not loud. It did not need to be. "My daughter has a name. My name is Marla Brooks. I have cleaned this building for 5 years. I have emptied trash after your late dinners, wiped coffee rings off your tables, picked up the papers you throw beside the bins because bending down is apparently for other people. I broke a rule tonight because I was sick and afraid. That is mine. I will answer for it. But do not use my job to make my child small." Richard Nance looked away first. Evelyn whispered, "This is absurd." Marla looked at her. "No, ma'am. Absurd is you thinking the people who clean your messes don't know what one looks like." For a moment, even Judge Whitaker seemed satisfied enough to stay quiet. Thomas clicked to the donor restriction clause. "Now that the witnesses have been heard, we return to the money." Page 42 of the Donor Reserve Archive states that Children's Hope funds cannot be routed to foreign intermediaries, audit shelters, or unapproved reserve accounts without unanimous donor consent. The transfer Mercer circulated is not a questionable authorization. It is structurally impossible as a lawful Hartwell transfer. Leland Price looked at Mercer. "You knew this?" Mercer's jaw worked. "The restriction language is subject to interpretation during emergency review," Judge Whitaker said. "I have read the clause. It is not." Arthur Voss pushed back his chair. "David, did you prepare the emergency packet?" Mercer said nothing. Celia asked, "Did Evelyn provide the signature archive?" Evelyn's face had gone blank. William looked from one to the other. They counted on speed, they counted on fear, and they counted on all of you being more willing to suspect a black girl with a cleaning badge than 2 executives with titles. No one corrected him. That was answer enough. Martin Hale entered quietly and handed Thomas his phone. Thomas listened to something, then looked at William. "The recording from your office," Thomas said. Martin captured David asking whether Evelyn got the girl's phone. Mercer stood abruptly. "This meeting is over." Judge Whitaker did not raise her voice. "Sit down, Mr. Mercer." He did not. Martin stepped closer to the door. William said, "No one is keeping you prisoner, David. But if you walk out before this board votes to preserve evidence, that will be noted." Mercer looked around the table, searching for one face still loyal to him. He found none brave enough to show it. Slowly, he sat. William looked at the board. "First motion. Suspend David Mercer's financial authority immediately. Second, revoke Evelyn Cross's executive access. Third, preserve all systems, accounts, communications, and logs for independent investigation. Fourth, notify outside counsel and federal authorities with Miss Brooks's evidence protected as original witness material, not employee misconduct, Judge Whitaker added. And fifth, no adverse action against Marla or Annie Brooks pending full review of tonight's events. Marla lowered her head, and for the first time, her knees seemed to weaken. Annie held her up. Leland Price raised his hand first. Celia followed. Then Arthur. One by one, the room moved. Evelyn stared at the table. Mercer stared at William. Annie looked at her mother. The vote passed before 9 o'clock, and the people who had planned to erase her name had to sit in their own room and hear it entered into the record. The vote did not end the morning. It only changed who was allowed to speak. For several seconds after Leland Price counted the final hand, no one moved. David Mercer sat with his hands folded on the table, his face emptied of the confidence he had worn when the meeting began. Evelyn Cross stared at the dark screen of her tablet. Around them, the board members looked older than they had an hour earlier, as if the truth had removed some necessary makeup from the room. Judge Whitaker closed her folder. The motions pass. Mr. Mercer's financial authority is suspended. Miss Cross's executive access is revoked. All systems and records are to be preserved. No one touches a server, deletes an email, clears a phone, or gives a helpful instruction to IT unless they want their name spoken to federal counsel before lunch. Arthur Voss cleared his throat. Judge, with respect, you are not chairing this board. No, she said. I am reminding this board how not to look guilty. No one challenged her after that. William turned to Martin Hale. Mr. Hale, escort Miss Cross to the small waiting room beside legal. She is not to return to my office, her desk, or any company device. She may call an attorney from a monitored conference line. She may not speak to staff. Evelyn looked up at him. After 12 years, you're having security walk me out? William's expression did not change. After 12 years, I know how much damage you can do in 5 minutes. A flash of pain crossed her face, and for one strange second Annie saw not a villain, but a woman who had spent a long time believing her usefulness entitled her to revenge. Then the look was gone. I kept your life running, Evelyn said. You helped try to ruin a girl's, William answered. Evelyn stood. Her eyes shifted to Annie. You have no idea what you stepped into. Annie's hand tightened around her mother's. No, Annie said. But I know what I saw. Martin stepped closer. Evelyn looked as if she might say more, then thought better of it. She gathered her tablet. But Judge Whitaker's voice stopped her. The tablet stays. Evelyn smiled without warmth. Of course. She placed it on the table and left with Martin. The door closed behind them, and the room seemed to release a breath. David Mercer did not wait to be addressed. I will cooperate with counsel. I deny any criminal intent. The recordings are out of context, and I expect this board to remember that panic cuts both ways. Thomas Reed, who had remained beside the projector, looked at him. That sounded better in your head. Mercer glared. You are not a member of this board. No. I'm the man who saved the recording, where you explained how to make a cleaning worker's daughter the breach. Celia Graham pushed her chair back. Enough. David, stop talking. Mercer looked at her, surprised. People like him were always surprised the first time a room stopped protecting them. Leland Price rubbed both hands over his face. We need outside counsel now. Not ours. Independent. Already contacted, Judge Whitaker said. William looked at her. She gave him a dry look. I came prepared to be unpleasant. Marla leaned toward Annie and whispered. I told you she had time to be nosy. Annie almost laughed, but the sound caught in her throat. Her body had not caught up with the fact that they were no longer being hunted through hallways. William heard the whisper and, for the first time that morning, allowed the edge of a smile to appear. It vanished when he turned back to the board. There is another matter, he said. Thomas looked at him, wary. William ignored the warning. This began because people inside my company believed they could frame me and blame Miss Brooks if necessary. But they believed that because our systems made it easy, a sick employee had to send her daughter to clean an executive office because missing one shift could threaten her job. That is not a side issue. Richard Nance shifted in his chair. William, with respect, Labor policy can be discussed after we stabilize the foundation. No, William said. That sentence is how companies keep their conscience permanently scheduled for later. Marla looked at him. He continued, effective immediately. No employee or contracted worker assigned to this building will be terminated, penalized, or replaced for documented illness without review by Human Resources, and an employee advocate not tied to their agency. Paid sick leave will be extended to cleaning, maintenance, catering, and night staff working under Hartwell contracts. Health coverage gaps will be reviewed within 30 days. Leland blinked. That is a major financial commitment. We almost lost $48 million because everyone in this building could see the executive signatures but not the woman emptying the trash. No one answered. William looked at Marla. Miss Brooks, what would have kept you home tonight? Marla stiffened at being addressed in front of all of them. Sir, I don't think I am asking. She drew a breath, knowing I wouldn't be punished for being sick. That's all? That's not small. William nodded. No, it isn't. Arthur Voss said quietly. We should vote on an emergency worker protection review. Judge Whitaker said, you should do more than review. Celia raised her hand. I support immediate temporary protections pending policy language. One by one, the board agreed. Richard Nance was last, and his hand rose as if it weighed more than the rest of him. Annie watched the hands go up. It did not look like justice the way movies showed it. No applause, no music, just tired people in expensive clothes agreeing, at last, that the people who cleaned up after them were not disposable. Mercer laughed under his breath. A touching performance. William turned to him. David, by the end of the day, every account you touched will be frozen. By the end of the week, every shell company tied to you will be mapped. By the end of the month, whatever friends you thought you had will be explaining why your name is in their records. You still think you control everything. No, William said. That was my mistake. I thought control was the same as protection. Mercer's mouth tightened. William looked at Annie. It isn't. Thomas checked his phone. Outside counsel is downstairs. Federal contact confirmed receipt. We need to preserve the office before anyone goes back in. Martin returned then without Evelyn. Miss Cross is in the waiting room. Phone line only. No devices. Good, William said. Take 2 guards not assigned to Evelyn's chain and seal my office. Photograph everything. Do not move the transmitter under the desk. Martin's eyes flickered. Understood. Mercer's face changed at the word transmitter. Judge Whitaker saw it. That surprises you, Mr. Mercer? No. You are a poor liar when cornered. Speak less. Annie decided then she loved Judge Whitaker a little, though she would never say it aloud. The meeting dissolved into controlled motion. Board members stepped into corners to call attorneys. Thomas gathered the evidence. Judge Whitaker made Leland sign a preservation order by hand because, as she put it, printers are useful until cowards start using them. Martin posted guards at both doors. Mercer was told to remain in the room until counsel arrived. He objected. No one cared. Marla swayed when she stood. Annie caught her. William noticed at once. She needs a doctor. I need to go home, Marla said. You need both. I can't afford both. The room went quiet enough for the words to embarrass everyone who heard them. William took out his phone, then stopped, remembering Thomas's rules. He looked to Martin. Have a private car brought to the service entrance, not a company driver tied to executive staff. Call Dr. Elaine Porter at Mass General through the public line. Tell her William Hartwell is requesting a home visit or immediate clinic admission for Marla Brooks. My office will cover it personally. Marla shook her head. No, sir. Miss Brooks. I said no. I am grateful. But I won't be bought because my daughter helped you. Annie looked between them, scared the help might disappear and proud that her mother refused to bend. William's voice softened. You are not being bought. You are being cared for because you are sick, and because this night made you sicker. Marla looked at him with years of caution in her eyes. People like you always know how to make a gift sound clean. That may be true, William said. Then don't take it as a gift. Take it as the first debt this company pays for treating your health like an inconvenience. Marla did not answer. Judge Whitaker spoke from behind them. Miss Brooks, take the medical care. Make him write the policy later. Marla closed her eyes. You always order people around? Yes. After a long moment, Marla nodded once. Annie's shoulders dropped in relief. William turned to Annie. You should go with her. Annie looked toward the table, the board, the evidence. Is it over? Thomas answered. No. But your part in this room is. Annie did not like that. William could tell. He said, not because you are being dismissed, because you did what the room needed. Now your mother needs you. That reached her. She nodded. As they moved toward the door, Leland Price stood awkwardly. Miss Brooks. Annie stopped. The older man seemed unprepared for his own impulse. Thank you. Annie looked at him. Don't just thank me. Leland blinked. She glanced at the cleaner's badge still on her shirt. Change something. Marla whispered, Annie. But William said, she's right. Leland lowered his eyes. Yes, she is. At the service entrance, the morning had gone pale over Boston. Rain still fell, lighter now. The city looked washed but not clean. William stood under the awning while Annie helped Marla into the back seat of the waiting car. Before Annie got in, she turned back. Mr. Hartwell? Yes? You believed me. Not at first. No, she said. Not at first. There was no accusation in it. Only truth. William accepted it. I should have. Annie looked at the tower rising behind him. You should have known her too. My mother. William glanced at Marla, who sat in the car with her eyes closed and one hand still on her purse. Yes, he said, I should have. Annie nodded, as if that was the only apology she wanted for now. Then she got into the car beside her mother. William watched the car pull into the morning traffic. Behind him, Hartwell Tower waited with sealed doors, angry lawyers, frightened board members, and the wreckage of a betrayal still being counted. But for the first time since midnight, he understood the part that mattered most had not happened on a screen or in a vote. It had happened when a girl nobody expected to notice anything had decided the truth was worth the risk. 3 weeks later, William Hartwell stood outside a brick apartment building in Roxbury with a paper bag from a neighborhood bakery in one hand and an envelope in the other. No driver waited at the curb. No assistant checked his schedule. No photographer had been told. He had come in a plain black sedan and parked 2 blocks away because he did not want the street to feel watched. The building was old but cared for. Someone had swept the front steps. A pot of yellow mums sat by the entrance, though the cold had browned the edges. From an upstairs window came the sound of a television turned low and someone laughing at a joke William could not hear. He looked up at the 3rd floor, then at the envelope in his hand. For most of his life, doors had opened before he reached them. This one did not. He pressed the buzzer, marked Brooks, and waited. Marla's voice came through the speaker. Who is it? William Hartwell. A pause. Then Annie's voice, farther from the intercom. He brought the bakery bag? William looked down at it. I did. The door buzzed open. Annie met him halfway up the stairs, wearing jeans, a gray sweater, and the same guarded look she had worn in his office, though softer now. Her hair was pulled back, and there was a notebook tucked under one arm. You didn't have to come yourself, she said. Yes, William said. I did. She looked at the bakery bag. What's in there? Blueberry muffins. The woman at the counter said they were good. She says that about everything. It's how they stay in business. William followed her up the stairs. That seems honest. It's Roxbury. People have rent. The answer made him smile more than he expected. Marla was sitting at a small kitchen table when they entered. She looked thinner than he remembered, but there was color in her face now. A mug of tea sat near her hand, along with a neat line of prescription bottles and a folded clinic schedule. She started to stand. William raised one hand. Please don't. Marla sat back down, not because he told her to, but because Annie gave her the same look. Mr. Hartwell, Marla said. Miss Brooks, you found the place all right? I did. You parked far. William paused. You saw? 3rd floor windows are good for knowing who comes to your door. Annie set the bakery bag on the counter. Mom sees everything. That's why I learned. William looked around the apartment. It was small, clean, and warm. A quilt hung over the back of the couch. A stack of mail sat in a blue plastic tray. On the refrigerator were 2 photographs. Annie in a graduation gown, Marla beside her with tired eyes and proud shoulders, and a newer one of both of them outside Mass General, Annie holding a paper cup of coffee, Marla wearing the expression of someone trying not to admit she felt hopeful. I won't take much of your time, William said. Marla gave him a look. People with envelopes usually say that. He glanced down at it. Fair. Annie sat beside her mother. What happened with Evelyn and Mercer? William pulled out the chair across from them. May I? Marla nodded. He sat. Mercer is under federal investigation. His accounts are frozen. 2 shell companies have already been tied to him. Evelyn's attorney is negotiating, which means she has started telling the truth in pieces. Will they go to prison? Annie asked. Possibly. I won't promise an outcome before the law finishes moving. Marla looked at him over her tea. That's the first rich answer I've heard that didn't sound decorated. William accepted that. The board preserved the fund. No money left the Children's Hope account. Judge Whitaker has agreed to oversee the independent review. Annie's shoulders eased. Good. And the worker protection policy passed temporary approval. Marla's eyes narrowed. Temporary. Permanent language is being drafted. Paid sick leave. Medical review protection. No automatic replacement for documented illness. And direct reporting outside the agency chain. Marla was quiet for a moment. That would have kept Annie home that night. Yes, William said. It should have existed before that night. No one filled the silence for him. He was grateful for that. Silence, he had learned, was where apology either deepened or died. He placed the envelope on the table and slid it toward them. Annie did not touch it. Marla did not either. What is it? Annie asked. Several things. A letter from Bunker Hill Community College confirming tuition coverage for 2 years, if you choose to attend there. If you transfer later, the scholarship follows you. There is also an offer for a paid internship with the independent audit team. Not under Hartwell management. You would not work for me. Annie stared at the envelope. For accounting? For forensic accounting, cybersecurity, compliance, whatever direction you decide. Thomas Reed said, you notice what people hope will be overlooked. He considers that a professional skill. Her mouth parted a little, then closed. Marla looked at William. And the rest? Medical coverage for your treatment, independent of your employment status. Back rent and outstanding utility balances cleared. A housing assistance option if you want to move, but no pressure to do so. The choice stays with you. Marla's face closed, not with anger, but with defense. Mr. Hartwell, my daughter didn't help you for money. I know. Do you? Yes, because people hear poor and think price. William did not look away. That is one reason I came myself. I did not want this delivered like a payment. What is it then? He thought about that. In the tower, he would have had an elegant sentence ready. Here, at Marla Brooks's kitchen table, elegance felt dishonest. It is a debt, he said. Some of it mine, some of it the company's, some of it may never be fully paid, but this is a start. Annie looked down at her hands. I don't want people saying I got rewarded for being in a place I wasn't supposed to be. Marla's eyes moved to her daughter with pain and pride mixed together. William said, then let them say this. You told the truth when lying or staying quiet would have been safer. Annie gave a small breath. People don't usually say it that way. No, William said. They usually say it in whatever way protects them. Marla touched the envelope at last, but did not open it. If we accept this, I want it in writing that Annie owes your company nothing. No speeches, no interviews, no photographs with the grateful girl standing beside the generous man. William reached into his coat and pulled out a second document. Already in writing. No publicity without your consent. No use of Annie's name, image, or story in foundation material. Annie looked surprised. Marla looked less surprised. Judge Whitaker? Judge Whitaker. Marla nodded. I like that woman. So do I, Annie said. William said, I'm afraid of her. Good, Marla replied. That means she's useful. Annie laughed then, not loudly, but fully enough that the apartment felt warmer. After a moment, she stood and went to the counter. I have something for you too. William blinked. For me? She opened a drawer and took out a printed photograph. When she handed it to him, he recognized the image at once. Evelyn in his chair. The blue light of the monitor on her face. The USB drive in her hand. The moment before a lie became visible. I printed it at the pharmacy, Annie said. Cost me 69 cents. William held the photo carefully. Annie said, keep it somewhere you can see it. Marla added, not in a drawer with all the other things rich men forget. Annie gave her mother a look. Mom, no, she's right, William said. Where should I put it? Annie thought about it. Near your desk, not where visitors see it, where you see it. Why? So you remember the truth doesn't always come from people with titles. William looked at the photo for a long time. In the tower, that image had been evidence. Here. It was something else. A warning. A mirror. A small, ordinary rectangle that held the night his systems failed, and a girl with no authority saved what authority almost destroyed. "I will," he said. Marla poured tea into a third mug without asking whether he wanted any. It was weak tea, a little oversteeped, and served in a mug that said, "World's okayst, Mom." William accepted it with both hands. Annie noticed. "You don't have to pretend you like it." "I'm not pretending." Marla gave him a flat look. "Now I know you're lying." He set the mug down, and all three of them smiled, carefully at first, then a little easier. Outside, traffic moved along the wet street. A bus sighed at the corner. Somewhere below, a man called to a neighbor by name. William listened to the sounds and understood, with a discomfort he did not push away, that his foundation had spent years trying to help communities it rarely sat inside. Before he left, Marla walked him to the door despite Annie's objections. At the threshold, she held out her hand. William took it. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For coming without cameras." He nodded. "Thank you for letting me." Annie stood behind her mother. "Mr. Hartwell?" "Yes. When people ask what happened, what are you going to tell them?" William looked at the photograph in his hand, then at Marla, then at Annie. "I'm going to tell them a young woman saw what the rest of us missed." Annie studied him. And I'm going to tell them the company had to change because seeing the truth means nothing if you leave the room the same way you entered it. That answer seemed to satisfy her. William stepped into the hallway. Annie closed the door, but not before he heard Marla say, "Put those muffins on a plate. We are not eating out of a bag like we were raised in a barn." He smiled on the stairs. Back at Hartwell Tower that afternoon, William placed Annie's photograph on the inside edge of his desk, angled toward his chair. Not for guests, not for the board, for himself. Every morning after that, before he signed a grant, approved a policy, or listened to someone explain why change needed more time, he looked at Evelyn's hand on the USB drive and remembered Annie Brooks standing near an overturned trash can, afraid, but unwilling to walk away. Power could lock doors, encrypt files, and hire experts by the hour. It could build towers, name funds, and summon lawyers before sunrise. But on the night William Hartwell nearly lost everything, power did not save the truth. A young black woman did, with an ordinary phone, a sick mother waiting at home, and the courage to stay long enough for someone to finally listen. The lesson of this story is that truth often survives because of the courage of people others overlook. Annie had no title, no power, and no protection. Yet she chose to speak up when silence would have been safer. William learned that real justice is not only about exposing betrayal, it is also about changing the systems that make honest people afraid. The story reminds us that dignity does not depend on wealth, position, or race. Sometimes the person cleaning the room sees the truth more clearly than everyone sitting at the table. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.